Streaming through the digital night, Jim Bustle, he's guiding the light, unveiling mysteries of the unknown. UFOs secrets, it's his addiction. Debating, discussing with his loyal crew. Cosmic conversations, unveiling the truth.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Here, I got my fucking theme song on there. Bethesda hasn't fucking flagged this video yet. Todd, God bless you. I live by the NPC theme. It's my life. Welcome, everybody, to another episode. Welcome, everyone. Rabbit. Hendrix. Finn, yeah, I'll have to check out your video, man. I didn't see that. I'll have to, fuck yeah, I'd love to see it. I'm excited to see it, actually. This evening, new Arrow director. Oh my. The other guy got fucking fired, I think. Cover up meltdown. Shroud of Turin real. I didn't cover that. I was talking about that, actually. Me and Harry and Galen TV had, Dr. Crennel, God bless you. Oh, wow. Such kind words. Such inspiring words. Me and Harry and Galen had some drinks the other night, and we were talking about the Shroud of Turin. And I was like, oh, fuck, right, that happened. That got confirmed to be real. I don't have a lot of faith in that actually legitimately being real, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe miraculous things do happen. So, oh, thank you, Hendrix. Yeah, fuck yeah. I'll pull that up here on the side. And, I look forward to this very much. Oh my God. Oh, wow. Oh yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, man. All right. Let's pull that up here. Yeah. At some point, let me jump in the chat here. Drunk, if you're there. At any point, you want to come in, come on in. We'll have a chat. We both wanted to talk a little bit more. Well, you wanted to talk about Lou Elizondo's book. We covered it a little bit last night. Obviously, it's an entire book. So there is a lot to go over still that we didn't really touch on. We kind of memed on it a little bit towards the end. But there are more details to go over. I don't know with what specificity I can bring up the book on stream, on Twitch especially. I do have a PDF copy of the book that I have been reading through. I finished the book. I listened to the first half audio, and then the second half, I kind of went through the first half again and then finished it. So, good read. Lots of interesting stuff. A couple spicy bits out of there. The spicy bits, unfortunately, got leaked a couple weeks ago. In my opinion, probably the biggest revelation for me was, well, two really. One, which I'd heard before, honestly, though. Hal Puthoff mentioning that Roswell was real. That was interesting. But also his involvement with remote viewing. I had no idea. So, no, I have not. I have not. What the fuck? Maybe that'd be worth going over. What the fuck? Hold on. Let me look that up right now. Oh, God. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, yeah, leave him in the same. Oh, that's a cold. Yeah, leaving him in the same boat as Chris Chan. That is god damn. That's fucking cold. Mick West. Yeah, I don't really pay much attention to him either. I mean, it's good to. I'm curious as to like what he got from this. Video game science and UFO analysis. Yes, Mick was involved in producing Tony Hawk skateboard games, which I love very much, actually. And God bless Mick for being involved with that project, because I loved that as a child. Well, this is something we can go over. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so it's not like he got it wrong. People like him know they are lying since they're running a business over gullible people. Oh my God. When Mick is 100% correct, Lou got a bunch of important details about the 3 Navy vids wrong. Oh, really? Oh, is it actually? Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I will, of course, listen to it. That would be something worth digging into, I guess. We'll definitely get to that. That's interesting. I mean, Mick obviously is good at researching things. I don't agree with his conclusions on them, and I think he's dealing with a level of hubris that is sometimes dangerous. But anyway, that's his own deal, right? We all have our issues. Like my issues here, like this, like dank fucking memes. I saw this, man. I was like, I laughed at this for a little while. Reptilian overlords trying to figure out how their $1 billion propaganda machine is being defeated by memes. It isn't just the face value of this meme, but it's the people who legitimately think that this is happening. And you know what? I can't say definitively that it isn't, but it's just both sides of it. Just kill me. They're online sharing memes every day, fighting against these reptilian aliens. It's like, God damn it. Like, what a world. What a world to immerse yourself in and be a part of. And schizo life, right? Which I hope I don't advocate for too much here, but you just inadvertently become a part of one way or another when you associate yourself with this topic and the people that cover this topic, talk about these things, experience these things to some degree. Fuck, man. Oh, fuck. And then I saw this, actually. This is the other day. I don't know, like, I run into these channels once in a while, and I'm like, man, like, he's got 200,000 followers. Holy fuck, man. This guy's slinging things. Reptilians despise the sound of bell. The moment the ringing begins, it reacts instinctively, running from the source as fast as it can. The sound is more than just a painful noise to its sensitive ears. It's a torment that cuts deep. Each bell's unique frequency gnawing at the mind. The variations in pitch and tone drive the reptilian to the brink of insanity, triggering an obsessive response it cannot control. In the presence of bells, the creature becomes powerless, unable to maintain its human disguise. The energy required to shapeshift slips away with every chime, leaving it vulnerable and exposed. The ringing not only strips away its power, but also its sanity, reducing one's formidable being to a state of helplessness. The bells, harmless to others, a devastating weapon against reptilian, rendering it unable to function or maintain its facade in the world of humans. So we know definitively there are no reptilians in the British Parliament. Big Ben is right there, and every time it goes off, they would all be revealed. So I think everyone in the UK, you're safe. None of your politicians are reptilians. People in Canada, though, fuck. Good luck. Good luck everywhere else. We don't have bells. Oh, fuck, man. Oh, God. Disney told us. Yeah. These guys nitpick on small inaccuracies and try to blow it up to everything that these guys try to get the truth at, saying it lies and fake. I mean, the way I look at it, a whole lot of people have to be crazy or lying for the West. Or Green should be right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If Mick stepped back a little bit and stopped trying to assert the entire thing as like some kind of mass hallucination or mental illness, then I wouldn't have as much of a problem with him. I think he's just crossed lines, obviously, with me, where he's asserted these things that I think are objectively ridiculous and like obviously wears away at someone's credibility for me when they say things like that, definitively. I think that perspective is just ignorant. He can certainly have it, but I think it's objectively just ignorant. And it's reflective, I think, of kind of some flawed logic, really, just an extreme ignorance to a lot of anecdotal data, where, you know, people who are actually scientifically oriented would factor those things into some degree to their hypotheses. I mean, they wouldn't just outright dismiss it if it's in those amounts, right? If like ufology sightings, even not even getting to abductions and that kind of woo side of it. That alone should be enough. That would be factored into a hypothesis. And for some reason, he's under the assumption that it wouldn't be. And I don't know where he's getting at with that. And I mean, Greenwald too is, they're just trying to troll. It's just trying to, which he successfully did. He inserted himself as a bad guy into the community. And I don't know financially how much that's benefited him more recently, but initially he became pretty involved. So yeah. Same Venice Spider-Man lore. I don't know. Is it? Maybe that's probably where it came from when someone tried to apply it to ufology. Both fictions. There you go. Oh, Drunk, welcome, man. You can jump to Discord at any time. I am in there right now. You should be able to join that channel that I'm in. It's open for just us, so nobody should be jumping in and disturbing us. Yeah, man. Fuck, I don't know. But yeah, just jump in, man, whenever you're ready. I'm in here. I got a couple things. Oh, there you are. Welcome.
I just need to sort out the fact that you're talking on another stream.
Oh, am I? Oh, yes.
Yeah, I've sorted it. All good.
Do you have headphones?
All good. No, I'm not. I can't. It's weird. I can watch you, but there's obviously a delay. Like, Finn is here today.
Yes, he is.
Always a pleasure to see you, Finster.
Yes.
Who else is in the chat today? Who else is here? We got the full mob.
A couple other people, yeah. We got 10 people in here right now.
Yeah. Hendrix, I can see Hendrix is here. We got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
It's a big day. I haven't been on the show for a long time, but today's a big day. A big old day.
It is. How did you? We'll get into the book.
Are you prepared to delve?
Oh yeah.
Delve deep. Into the Elizondo interviews, books, the full in-depth discussion. There's going to be a lot of spoilers though. I'm a bit concerned about that. If you don't get upset, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
For anybody out there, yeah. I've got the entire book in PDF form beside me, so yeah, we can definitely go to specific examples. I don't know, like, I won't read like an entire chapter, but I'm sure we can. We can get into it.
We can get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Get into it. So do you want to just give a little background rundown of what it is that we're going to talk about? So anyone who randomly is out here that doesn't know, I'm pretty sure they all know what's going on, but just in case.
Well, I think we're gonna talk about Imminent. So this is Lou's book, this biography, I guess, of his life, really. Which, was reading through the first couple chapters. I thought it was kind of interesting. It's interesting to know this guy's character. For people that have been following the story, he's been a pivotal figure for the last 7 years. Since 2017, he's been one of the guys. He's kind of been the face of this whole disclosure movement. So I was interested to kind of know his background, his story, where he comes from, what his history was, what his life was like, what led him on this path. But I think we're going to have a discussion about this, some material, and also I think we'll get into the reaction as well. Finn just posted a video of Mick West going over what he got wrong. So
yeah, I've seen that video. I saw that a while ago, and I actually I think it was out about 4 or 5 days ago now.
Was it?
I actually think it's. I know this is not going to be a popular response from people. That I'm probably going to get some passive aggression, but I actually think that he made some very fair points. To be honest.
Oh, that's what Finn said too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm curious. I'm curious what he's going to say.
Are we doing a live watch of it, or?
Well, at some point. I mean, I think maybe we should kind of go over. I'd like to hear what you thought of the book. So I mean, I finished it. You finished it, I think. So I mean,
yes, I finished it.
Yeah. Like what do you think of it?
Well, let's talk about what the book's about briefly, in terms of how it's structured.
Yeah.
And then I'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the book's broken down into, I would say, 3 sections. One is a little bit of the history of how it came to be that he was that Lou Elizondo was working with ATIP, and there's a lot of stuff he can't talk about, so he often glosses over stuff, especially when it comes to parts or missions of stuff that he's done in the past. But he makes us aware that he did do them at some point, and that he can't talk about them. And then there's like this physics part to the book where he starts to describe and explain theories inside of ufology, regarding UAPs, NHI, non-human intelligences, metamaterials, you know, the different aspects of what you would describe as a UAP, you know, hypersonic speed, transmedium, all that kind of stuff, you know. So he goes into quite a bit of detail in terms of the physics. And then I would say the next part is really the critical people that had influenced him while he was working in the Pentagon. And I would caveat, actually, there's a kind of a fourth part about what happened after he left,
Right.
and
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
his journey to becoming the initial hit, not just him actually, but one of the critical people for the beginning of what he believes is disclosure. So that's ultimately what the book breaks down to, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Is that a fair assessment?
I would agree. I would say, yeah, similarly, kind of, I think the first section really kind of delved with, it dealt with him to some degree personally, then it went into what he was dealing with, a build up into what he got involved with, the history of it, specifics about it, and then, yeah, once he got out of the program and kind of what he was doing out in his, in the private sector afterwards, and some of the flack that he ran into, his association with Tom DeLonge as well, and kind of his stardom, his rise to stardom after he comes out of the shadows a little bit is kind of how. But your description was, it's probably a better way of putting it, actually.
Yeah. I mean, no, you're right. I kind of glossed over the when I said that all the stuff that he's done, but the consequences for disclosure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that when I say disclosure, when he was a key person for disclosure, I would mean the effects it's had on him personally, his family. Talking about financially as well. He delves into that a little bit. So, you know, I mean, I didn't realize that. Okay, let's start with some interesting stuff, right? So let's start with the first part, which is about his personal life and his history.
Yeah.
He seemed to have had like an abusive father.
Insane father.
Yeah, like a kind of nutty father.
Yeah.
But he loved his dad, but his mum and dad ended up divorcing. And it seems that somehow Lou is Jewish. Like, I was really confused by that. Like, he was going to Hebrew school. You know, it was very, very odd. And he seems to have flirted with quite a few religions because he comes from such a mix. He's got some Cherokee in his blood as well. Like, he's got quite a mixed background.
Yeah.
So he has an opportunity to have dived into quite a few different philosophical positions, but he had a really tough time at school. From what I remember, he didn't do particularly well at school, but then went on to do some kind of microbiology, I think.
Yes,
And,
you did agree in that. Yeah, which was surprising. I
and
didn't know he had a background there in biology. It was just weird. But anyway,
he seemed to have done a little bit better there and managed to pick himself back up. I think he seemed very proud of the fact that he pulled his education from, back from the depths, if you like. And he feels like I think it's fair to say from the book that he felt like he'd achieved in spite of the people around him rather than in support of the people around him.
yeah.
In spite of his father, in spite of the difficulties that he had in his initial school, in spite of the school that that they sent him to, which felt like a cast-off school at a later date. And he still managed to come out the other end and prove that he's a capable guy.
Yeah, a very traumatized childhood. Not obviously, this can be spoilers for people that have not read the book a little bit, but I think it's kind of important context. Like his character, I felt like, so his dad was a Cuban revolutionary, and he worked with Castro to overthrow the government there, and like those guys were crazy, like Che Guevara, Castro, the whole cast and crew. He was a part of that, and I think this was in his teenage years, he'd said someone had kind of sat down and talked to them, but there was some plan or operation that these expats out of Cuba were coming up with to go and take control from Castro, and they were training a new generation of people. Like his dad was getting to fly planes when he's 10 years old and learn how to make bombs and learn how to shoot guns and drive a boat.
Well,
And
his grandfather was like teaching him like really cool stuff, I think.
Yes.
And also he had like some kind of motorcycle accident, and they just watched him. They were like, you need to be able to get up off your own feet.
Yes.
I was just like, oh my god, like that's real hardcore. Like the School of Hard Knocks would be a fair assessment.
Absolutely.
On that one.
Yeah.
So that's like one part, and I did enjoy finding out about Lou Elizondo. I don't think it's anything revelationary. It's just it doesn't really go into much detail about the cases that he'd particularly been informed by at a later date. It really was just a get to know me kind of thing, but does explain his character, and it does help you have context to how he feels later in the Pentagon about getting frustrated and being stifled in his progress. So and having resilience. I think the first part of the book is really just to indicate how resilient he is as a human being.
Yeah.
That's what I took away from it. I think that he'll just keep going even when all the odds are against him, because he thinks he's doing the right thing. And that's cool. I really I enjoyed it. I just don't think it wasn't particularly helpful in terms of disclosure. So if you think that and it's a good chunk of the book. We're talking like a third of the front end of the book. Like,
literally, yeah.
apart from the acknowledgement right at the beginning, there's a foreword by Chris Mellon, who did a really lovely forward actually. And Chris Mellon is the other critical person for disclosure, as we find out later on in the book. But we'll come back to Chris Mellon. We can talk. The two major people to talk about in this book were Hal Puthoff and Chris Mellon.
I was just going to say Hal Puthoff is one of the he has a great reverence for him that I also didn't know. And I guess I didn't understand. I mean, but we'll get into that, I guess.
We'll get into that when we get to the meat and potatoes of this story.
Yeah.
And so, look, I enjoyed it. Like I said, the first third of the book, but really wasn't revelationary in any real way, unless you found anything specific that you thought is, mind-boggling.
No, there wasn't really anything. I mean, yeah, it was kind of just a perspective of like his childhood and his rise to like a very stable position, and then one day Jay Stratton with his counterpart, that woman, the Russian woman, walking in and flipping his world upside down, and then him getting into like the wacky, the woo side of it, like, and that seemed like that's where we started going down the slide a bit, kind of towards the meat and potatoes, so kind of the middle of the book.
I will add the context that his family was kind of broken, and then he went to what was a military school and got became a family inside of that military school, and then found his family inside military. I think that is a very common story that people with broken families who are looking for that love and trust, die for you kind of attitude, often can find that in the military when it's not available in your own home. So and I think that was something that was quite clear, because he felt very at home in the military, from the book anyway, and made him very nationalistic in terms of protecting the United States, and honorable. He seemed like a very honorable guy as well.
Yeah, no, he does, and he seems like a very service to other person. I think he seems like a very good guy. Welcome, Astra, and this is Drunk Physics here on the channel right now. It's a friend of mine who's going over with the Lou Elizondo book, Imminent. We're just kind of going over what we thought of things and what we thought of.
We haven't had a chance to chat about it yet. So look, like solid first third. This is so, and I would call that the good part. For me, the good. It's not the confounding part, but it's good. The bad part for me was definitely the second part where he starts talking about the physics.
That's what I wanted to hear from you about. Yeah.
Now listen, I wouldn't write a book on physics, not because I'm not capable of writing a book on physics, just because I know an enormous amount on the subject. But at the end of the day, there's better qualified people to talk about pretty much every area, right? I'm more than capable of having a debate. I can have a debate with the most intellectually studied people, but ultimately I'd have to respect those people and the knowledge that they have. I mean, because they've been there, they've done the research. If I want to talk to Hal Puthoff about quantum mechanics, I'll be asking him questions. I won't be telling him about the physics. Do you get what I mean?
Right, exactly. And I hear you. Yeah.
I feel like he felt that he needed to take it upon himself to start putting some of the physics, quantum mechanics, general special relativity, you know, time and space, and ideologically into his book so that he could contextualize why what he was seeing were not from this planet. And he didn't do a particularly good job. And the reasons he didn't do a good job is because it's not his area of expertise. And he freely admits that actually in the book. You know, he would talk about taking cases to physicists who would like chase their own tails trying to answer how what he'd seen was, or what he'd recorded, or what not necessarily he'd recorded, the Navy had recorded, or other three-letter agencies had recorded. You know what had happened. And I'm sure he's heard many explanations from multiple physicists, including people like Hal Potter, over the years, giving him a decent understanding in his own mind of the physics. But there's a difference. There is a huge difference between having a decent understanding yourself and then being able to transmit that to the general public in a way that is commutable, such that they're going to get something from it and you're going to be able to give it out in a digestible fashion. And really it just felt like an amalgam of physics words and terminology that were just rushed to try and achieve the goal of being able to talk about UFOs. And I really would have rather he'd focused on the stories and just said, listen, if you want to know more about these other physics topics, these maybe go and read a book by, or go and speak to, or go and listen to. They'll give you a better explanation than me. And you know, top people tend to do that. I was listening to Richard Dawkins today, and he was on trigonometry, which is a show. It's called Trigger because people get triggered. So they talk about physics and science, things that trigger people. And, you know, he said, I don't really want to talk about, you know, there are better people to talk about quantum mechanics. You know, I'll talk about the Schrodinger cat. I'll have a chat with you, but I'm not a physicist. And, you know, and he knew, even Richard Dawkins, who is one of the world's top biologists, knew that it's not his place to have those conversations or be the forefront of those conversations and refer it on. And I really feel like Lou should have done a better job with that. That's one of my criticisms in terms of that physics section of the book. And it does work out at about like 3 or 4. There's 25 or 26 chapters in the book, 25 and an acknowledgement or something. And about 4 of those chapters or 5 of those chapters were physics explanations, maybe more. So that's how I felt. I'm going to pass it over to you. Hi, 4Rabbit, and hi, Astromare. I'm going to pass it over to you on that part.
Well, I think so. I do want to know in a second, like specifically what parts. So I know some of the there was like an interesting chapter. So I have the chapters up in front of me. So I know one chapter I thought was interesting. I'd heard of this before, but it was called Angels and Demons, and that he kind of talked about the metaphysical side of things, but also getting into pushback he got internally. And he mentioned this at other points in the book too, from people within kind of the bureaucracy in the US who were very fundamentally like Christian and who viewed the entire thing as like demonic. And they were trying to shut them down at every step, whether it was OSEP, which preceded Lou, or ATIP. They were very reluctant to carry forward any kind of research, and he had a really hard time with them. There was a name that he had called them, and I just watched actually when I was eating dinner the Ross Coulthard interview with Lou, and he fucking mentioned the name again, and I'd forgotten it again. But there's a term for them, and they're kind of this like shadow group of like fundamentalist types that are in the kind of bureaucratic structure in the U.S., like in government. And they kind of they manipulate things, like, not to get onto this fucking debate at all, but like the abortion thing is one area where they tend to have control over, where they kind of project their philosophical, like theological beliefs about like that, and it causes a lot of problems. And that's just one area, but he ran into them too, and he was dealing with UAP. So that was kind of interesting. I think, he gets into like the observables was one chapter. He started to get into, and this is when I was thinking of you, where this word gets thrown around a lot, where he was mentioning like warp bubble or I think it was that like there's this manipulation of gravity, and then he gets into something to do with dimensions. And you've explained this as well, as you've acknowledged string theory, but that there's a lot of confusion when people are throwing around interdimensional and warp bubble and things like that.
Well, he had some kind of weird gravity bubble where you're able
Yes.
to control the gravity inside the bubble compared to outside the bubble. Like,
Yeah.
this is some like highly theoretical, spurious, like banana stuff. Like, you'd need some kind of gravity emitters. This actually links back to what's his face? Oh my
Bob.
god, I can't believe I've forgotten his name. Bob Lazar, thank
Bob,
you. Yeah, Bob Lazar, who had these gravity emitters on his speeder ship, and he did a little video explaining how those gravity waves work, and it's just bananas. It's just junk stuff. Like, it's not real physics. It's not, you don't explain physics that way either. Like, where's the mathematics that supports this? Where's the, anyone can say anything. It's just Star Trek stories. You can't.
Right.
This is, and no, you can't really expect him to actually explain it in a scientific manner either, because it's not his area of expertise. So, but if you're going to just like lay out a load of pop physics, or I think my point is that he should have just stood back a little bit from it and just said, these are the observables. This is what we've seen. I don't know what the reasons are, but this is what we've seen. There are some areas of physics that may be able to explain parts of it. And that would have been perfectly acceptable.
Yeah. Well, like, sorry, he did mention at one point, and it was to do with Hal Puthoff. And it was and I was wondering if you would know what it was. I'd have to find the actual chapter. Oh, thank you, Finn. Yeah, the Collins Elite is what they're called. There's a chapter where Hal had mentioned there's some theory in physics that lays the foundation potentially for interpreting this whole like warp bubble, this bending of gravity, and using it to propel yourself forward. And what I was wondering was, why didn't he get Hal to interject in the book, or like why didn't he get more specifics if he was going to go this way? Like,
where is Hal Puthoff? This is like, where's Wally? Where is Hal Puthoff? Why when I search for him, why is there such little stuff on probably the most influential person? Like, every single person in the Pentagon that talks about where they got their information from seems to always come back to Hal Puthoff, and it worries me. It actually worries me a lot, because what does Hal Puthoff know that's convinced so many of these high-level colonels, admirals, Pentagon agents with the top-level clearances? What is it that he's explaining to them or showing them? And
yeah,
I would love to find a way to discredit him, and I'm sure many physicists would, because it doesn't feel good to just get the back end of like some physics. But he's such a credible person. Like, if you actually look him up and look at what he's achieved just in the physics, he has his own papers that are very credible papers in terms of quantum mechanics. He has his own agency, technology agency, which has put out some good stuff on advanced aeronautical engineering. So, wow, it's a real quandary I have, because the whole stuff. The thing with Hal Puthoff is it really starts to go deep into the woo, and I'm like, you know how I feel about the woo, right? The woo stuff. Like, I just, like, my brain just melts out my nose. Like, I can't physically like deal with it. So
we need a handrail.
Remote viewing was the first kind of mind-blowing thing that started to turn up, right?
Yes.
That was when you hit the remote viewing chapter, you're just like, okay, we've finally entered the book. Like, I don't know what chapter that was, but it was just like, yep, now we're in it. Now we're starting. Now he's dragging us in.
Yeah, it was pretty early on. It was like in the end of the first third, like towards the maybe the end of the first third of the book. Yeah. One part I was trying to look through and find, because he mentioned the theory, I think, that Hal had mentioned, that kind of gets into this whole
It was weird
manipulation.
that he put it so early in on the book. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt you, Joe.
No,
Do you think that do you think it was weird that he put it so early on in the book when he knew full well that that would be the most controversial part of the book? Like, I actually think that remote viewing is more controversial than the existence of aliens or the government like having ships. Like, so for those people that don't know what remote viewing is, just to be clear, this is people in a room, isolated, going into some kind of like trance or getting into some kind of state. Like, they're not clear on what that state is, but some kind of meditational state where they're able to see or like almost dream things that are happening that somewhere, small images, and they'll draw them or get someone to draw them. I think they tend to try and draw them themselves. And they've done tests where they take a sealed envelope in a like electromagnetically sealed room, and then they say, okay, there's an envelope. What's inside the envelope? Like, what have we drawn? We've drawn an object. Like, what is it? And then they'll go into some kind of remote viewing trance, and then they'll draw the object. And Hal Puthoff put out which through a FOIA request, we've seen them research papers showing that there was significant results from remote viewing. And what's worse, what's even more mind-boggling, and what they could delve into the book a little bit, is the fact that the CIA were using remote viewing for like 50 years with loads of what was the name of that? What was his name? A Swan?
Ingo. Yeah.
What was it? Ingo Swan, who was like the most prolifically successful remote viewer that it ever had. In fact, the Israeli, the spoon bender, Uri Geller, they actually put out like information. How Puthoff himself put out information saying that Uri Geller was legitimate, like that they'd tested him and that his psychic abilities were real. And this stuff just. My alarm bells just start going off like bananas.
Well, listen, like I think we're both in the same boat with spoon bending. I know some people that we know maybe don't agree with that, but spoon bending was I have a hard time going to spoon bending. But some kind of powerful intuition. I mean, I think it's, and listen, at the start of it, I had a hard time with it too. But it's one of those things. I don't know how we'd even explain it. There's no one can explain it. And I think when
I watched a recent interview with Uri Geller.
Yeah.
And he has a very long history with working with the CIA. In fact, the CIA had a ex-Nazi, I can't remember his name, who was working for them. And he asked Uri Geller to come and look at craft and NHI that had been badly damaged. And Uri Geller had seen them, and he claims that's when he knew that they were aliens. I can't remember the name. Someone will probably tell us the name of this Nazi that was working for the American government.
Oh, this is Werner von Braun. Is that who it was?
That's it, Werner von Braun. Yeah, Werner von Braun.
Yeah, he was a rocket guy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a lot of crazy stories. I think with the remote viewing stuff, like that's probably the most shocking. Now, I had heard this before the book even came out because it got leaked. Revelation from Lou that he had ran into this in the military. So during Stargate, Stargate was one of the programs that Hal had set up.
A successful program. Should we just be clear about that? Yes. A successful program.
Yes. Yeah, it was. And they had success in it. And that's why they kept giving the money to do it. And part of the program was it involved them scouting people who may have had psychic, in quotations, whatever that means, abilities, Army service members, Navy, Air Force, Army. They would scout service members. Like it's like they would give them these litmus tests and they wouldn't know what they were. And I don't think this is how Lou got into it. He actually didn't really elaborate too much on how specifically he got into it, I think. But they would give them these tests, and they would test for specific things. They'd ask them questions, and they'd weed these people out. And then through those tests, they ended up with people who they thought had some kind of gift. And then they go and they bring them these training sessions, and then they'd further weed them out there. And I think what happened was Lou ended up getting weeded out probably in that process. But they had found some really crazy people like Joe McMoneagle, who is another guy who crazy stuff. And it's the anecdotes don't do it justice, I think. You know, Pat Price was another guy. Pat Price and Ingo Swan were the two guys that kind of started remote viewing. Ingo, obviously, in one of the experiments they did at was it Stanford? I forget where Hal was at initially. But they had at the time, because this is during the Cold War, a detector way under the ground, like buried in cement, they were using to detect, I think, waves of energy that were given off from nuclear detonation. So if the Soviets were testing a nuclear weapon, this detector was hypersensitive under the ground. It would pick up these detonations. Anyway, there was no way to fuck with that. And Ingo, during the testing with Hal and oh my God, Hal's counterpart, I always forget his name. He ended up fucking with this sensor, and he set it off. He picked up on it and fucked with it and set it off. And then the CIA got involved because they were like, how the fuck did you do that? And that was what kicked off the whole thing, really, was him fucking around with that sensor, because they knew there was no way that he would be able to do that. And then Pat Price was another guy. Pat Price was a detective who supposedly had been using this technique, although he didn't know what it was, to find people, missing persons, solve murders. He had been involved in like some of this shit I saw on TV growing up, like psychics finding dead bodies and missing persons. Pat was supposedly doing this. And they recruited him and then kind of taught him, well, what you're actually doing, we think, is some kind of latent psychic ability. And he was like, what the fuck? And then Pat ended up dying kind of suspiciously in Las Vegas after remote viewing something. And there's kind of a history of lore there. So I'll read the comments, guys, see what they're saying here.
But also in the 1980s, in the 1980s in Iran, there were some hostages, and the CIA used the psychics to get information of where these hostages were being held.
Yes.
And then they went and freed the hostages based on the information that these psychics had, these remote viewers had. I mean, like, I take this with a very large pinch of salt. But it is what it is. They spent millions and millions and millions of pounds on these psychic program. Stargate turned into something else, which turned into something else.
Yeah. Bob Monroe picked it up from the Monroe Institute, and then it went from there. It's the whole Stanford thing. Look, at the end of the day, they were still running it according to the book when Lou was there. Yes.
Because Lou had been trained to do it, and just as he was about to become a regular, they pulled the funding, and that was the end of it. Claiming that it was all shenanigans after using it for 50 years. There's a question here from Terrain Beast. Hold on, sorry. It says, what did Drunk think of the deal that Chris Mellon made with Lou in the second half of the book to trade him the hard evidence and reveal the truth? Well, we haven't got that far yet, Terrain Beast. We'll get to that. We'll get to the whole Chris Mellon situation.
Yes.
Where we're just literally heading into the Hal Puthoff discussion, and we're really just touching the outer circle of this, because Hal Puthoff, he did an interview with Eric Weinstein,
yes,
which I've watched, and I've watched a couple of times because I wanted to try and garner information from Hal, but he says nothing. Like, he says very little, and they just keep cutting to Eric Weinstein explaining the theories to maybe one sentence that he says, and it's just such a shame, because it's such a missed opportunity. Eric Weinstein asks really good questions, but then answers them himself in the way that he wants them answered. And really, we didn't really want to hear from Eric Weinstein. I normally do want to hear from Eric Weinstein because he's a very credible, good guy, and I feel very akin. I feel like he's my brother in arms somehow. But
Yeah.
we wanted to hear from Hal Puthoff, and you know, it just didn't really happen. The Hal Puthoff did a talk at the Soul Foundation about UAPs. Did you see that at all?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I watched through it. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, really just going over what's already in public, in the public domain.
Yeah, they did. He didn't really, well, because like the one thing that I've always wanted to hear from him, Finn, in regards to your thing, we're definitely gonna watch your innovation here too at some point, Finn. I'm excited to see that. And this kind of gets into Uri as well a little bit, but I always wanted to hear what Hal thought of the phenomena really, though. And I know, again, as you know, he's a hard scientist. He doesn't like to speculate, right? And I totally get that. But I wanted to hear more of his thoughts on, like, what do you think is fucking going on here? Like, I've never heard them really speculate on it at all, which is interesting. And now he's gotten into, I suppose, some of the potential physics behind it, but I haven't really heard him speculate as to what he thinks is going on. And even with UAP,
you're gonna have a follow-up. You would ask him a follow-up question about why he thinks the way he thinks, and he just wouldn't be able to answer them, I'm guessing, or a good chunk of it, because it's going to be classified. Like, a lot of it's going to be classified.
That's exactly it, Finya. He's like Valet. He talks in riddles, and that's the thing. You want them unfiltered. And the question, though, is why aren't they? And I think now there could be a couple reasons for that. And obviously one of those is potentially this has been lucrative for him financially. And, Jacques. Now, the thing about Jacques is a little bit different because Jacques was extremely wealthy, I think, irregardless of the UFO phenomena, because he was involved in computers very early on and got involved in Silicon Valley when it was like literally nothing.
Independently.
Yeah, he's independently wealthy. Hal was more intimately tied in with remote viewing and shit. But he also, because of some of his ventures, became somewhat independently wealthy. I mean, Eric had a really good question in regards to remote viewing, which Hal was reluctant to talk about in the interview. And this does tie into which was, it's really convincing to pull up to your meeting about remote viewing and its legitimacy in your Bugatti or in your private jet, right? Like, that makes your argument about how valid this is far more credible. It's like, because Hal had mentioned something about where they were remote viewing the silver market, right? And like the stock market, the stock exchange.
That's right.
And and he essentially said, we were making so much money, we just stopped doing it. And Eric was like, hold on. That's horseshit. And that is exactly what I've wanted someone to do to him. And,
he called him out, and then Hal Puthoff basically said, well, why don't you just follow what I'm telling you? I will give you the information, and let's see if you succeed. He kind of called him back out. They called each other out, right? There was a little it was like a little Mexican standoff. Guns were loaded, but no one actually shot a bullet.
I just, that gave me alarm bells where, I mean, one of my concerns too, listen, like Uri Geller always to me seemed like fucking like loony. Like I didn't, but the thing about it is, this spoon banning might be a gimmick, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have some kind of ability, maybe when it comes to remote viewing or some kind of strong intuition or whatever you want to call, like psychic in quotations ability. Maybe he does. And I think what the documents reveal, he was functioning maybe kind of as a remote viewer more than he was as like a magician. And I think he is technically he's like a stage magician too, to some degree. But with Hal, I wanted more, I don't know, you want more transparency with him. And my concern was, people like to stay in that space and stay mysterious because it kind of keeps them like no one really holds them accountable for anything in that way. And I wanted Eric to hold, and he kind of did, which is good. Or get into more specifics about like the physics of remote viewing or which he didn't talk about at all, really. He talked a little bit, but about, and which not a lot of people know about, really, is Hal's involvement with like these UFO programs and what he knows there. And, the question is, and this is something that came to my mind too, and that Lou kind of mentions in the book as well, but there's like a dangerous part to this whole conspiracy as well, where, people have been killed over this, likely. And maybe they're just treading carefully because, they played ball with some of these private contractors or, these corporations like Lockheed and Boeing and some of the things that have happened there recently. And maybe, maybe some of the stuff is legitimately like top secret, and there has been some kind of like Manhattan Project-esque program going on. And as me and Galen were talking about this last night, but as people may or might not know from the Manhattan Project, like for those associated with it, if you were caught leaking secrets out or talking about it, it was considered espionage, and there was no trial. They literally took you all back and they shot you. That was it. There was no questions asked. So if this kind of stuff has been going on behind the scenes for the last couple decades, and there's been this kind of new age arms race, this kind of new Cold War with this technology, then it could be very serious. And that might explain some of the hesitancy for Valet or Hal or some of these figureheads that have been involved in this for a long time to speculate or get too close to the fire. Maybe. Or maybe it's because they're just con men, but I don't think so.
The thing with Uri Geller is that it sounds like a load of crap.
Yes.
Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Until you realize that he successfully worked with the CIA, or he found gold for Japanese firms in the Amazon.
Yes.
Like, until you like look into the things that he did with companies, it's I don't like any of the feats that he's done without calling him a charlatan. But then this massive body of stuff that he's done. He could be the most successful charlatan in history, as far as I'm concerned.
But it's one of those things. It's like people are complicated. That's the unfortunate part, where you can have someone who has a genuine ability, but then maybe doesn't make enough money off of it. So then what does he do? I bend spoons with it, right? Like you become a meme, right?
In 2017, the CIA had did multiple tests and sent him on multiple missions where he had successfully helped them. They kept joking about this the grapes that he remote viewed and got correct, even with the number of grapes being correct on his sheet compared to theirs. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah,
I'm sure that lots were wrong, but some of them were right. And anyway, let's returning this back to the book.
Yes.
Lou goes into detail about the legitimacy of remote viewing. He was convinced that remote viewing was extremely legitimate by the end of it. He had some successes himself on certain things, but he couldn't get clearance to talk about them. So he doesn't actually tell us what they are in the book.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Anyway, so that kind of covers the remote viewing part of the book, Phil.
There was one interesting part I wanted to bring up because it was kind of at the end of this a little bit. So this is where he introduces Hal and Co. and he gets into that and the reverence for him. And then he also brings up Eric Davis, after which Eric Davis obviously is a physicist, I believe. Yeah.
Another big name.
Yeah.
Eric Davis, another big name.
Yeah, and he was involved with the Wilson Davis memo, which was out there in ufology, where essentially he was aware. Eric was aware and is implied worked on some of these black programs. Eric is a first-hand witness, is what essentially has been implied by people in ufology. Anyway, I'd heard of this before, and I know this was kind of out in ufology, but this is an interesting anecdote where Dr. Edgar Mitchell. So Edgar Mitchell, he's a PhD, I think, in biochemistry. I can't remember, but he was a sixth man to walk on the moon, and he was a good friend of Hal and Eric. And there was a memo that leaked out of his collections, whatever they call it, when he died. And it was an interesting story, and he told this story, I guess, to Hal and Eric in confidence. So two parts. So I'm jumping around a little bit, but one thing that struck me, which I know he's mentioned before anecdotally, was that Hal Puthoff had told Lou personally that Roswell happened. And then he told him specifics about what happened. So I thought this was a pretty big claim in the book. This is one of the big claims. He had it on paper, right? So he published it, right? So I'm assuming that this was approved by Hal because he's friends with Hal Puthoff. So Hal had explained to him that there were 2 craft that crashed, and I believe the second craft left, which I'd never fucking heard before. But that
I've never heard that. That's a new one on me.
Yes, I
that
think
was that was definitely one of the revelations, right?
Yes,
like I've never heard of a second ship. Right?
Yeah. That's
also, how did they know there was a second ship? Like like were they there when the second ship landed and then took off and left?
Well,
or was it reported to them by the other person who saw the crash? Like, what's the deal there?
I that's one thing, and I'm pretty sure that was what was mentioned. I hope I'm not conflating this with the unit. I've watched fucking 6 interviews with this guy last 2 days, 3 days.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, no, I think that's what he said in writing, I think, right? Yeah. And that there were bodies recovered. And now the second thing that was mentioned about this, which is really interesting, was this memo that came out of Edgar Mitchell's library. But so Edgar Mitchell had told Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis. So Edgar Mitchell actually, his family is from Roswell, New Mexico. Edgar Mitchell grew up in Roswell, New Mexico. He was a kid in Roswell, New Mexico when the crafts crashed. And this was one of the reasons why Edgar Mitchell came out in I think it was like the 90s, the late 80s, early 90s. Edgar Mitchell came out and started fighting for this argument in ufology that this was real because his family, they were one of the ranchers supposedly the FBI had threatened after the crash. And the FBI went around supposedly door to door at all these ranching families around the surrounding area and said, listen, we know what you've heard. Don't fucking talk about it or you're going to end up like so-and-so who's dead. And supposedly they threatened all their lives. And his parents had told him this and that he had told Hal and Eric this. Now, this is obviously hearsay, but it's hearsay from a pretty big name. And it's from 2 other big names. And this is mentioned in a memo as well. So that was a pretty big one, really. And he had also, and Ed Mitchell had talked about this on video through the 90s and early 2000s. But again, seeing this reiterated again, and also I wasn't aware that Hal and Eric were involved in disseminating this memo. I had no idea. So that was something else that, again, it's probably not new to everybody in ufology. I think Stanton Friedman was always saying there was more than one Roswell crash. I think I had heard, that there may have been 2 craft associated, but I didn't know. Like Lou had said, the second one like crashed and then left
and flew away. Yeah,
I've never heard that anywhere. Yeah.
But, do you know what? I want to know. Like, listen, physicists know physicists, okay? And if you're in the area of physics, like when I found out about Hal Puthoff, I went and looked up his research. I went and read his papers. Yeah. It's just something that physicists tend to do, right? If you're interested in the subject, you want to know what that person thinks about the subject that you know and love, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Stanton Friedman was a physicist.
Yes.
And I've almost heard nothing about Stanton Friedman and Hal Puthoff. Like, did they meet? Did they talk? Did they have an interview of each other? Like, all roads lead back to Hal Puthoff for like the last 70 years. So what's the deal there? Like, Stanton Friedman did highly in-deep research on very specific topics within ufology. There's no way that they didn't come across each other, meet. I would have going back, if I could meet Stanton Friedman, that would be one of my big questions about did he ever have a meeting with Hal Puthoff?
I don't think that he did. Yeah.
I find that hard to believe. I find that very hard to believe. I think that Hal Puthoff at the time, when Stanton Friedman was heavily involved, would have been a non-existent name inside of the CIA, a name that really wouldn't have been common knowledge.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't know who Lou Elizondo was back then either. Do you know what I mean? Right?
No.
Like,
yeah.
These you needed to be read into to particular. So it's possible that he just didn't even know the existence of Hal Puthoff, but I find it with the FOIA requests that have come out, even later in his life, in the kind of like buck end of his life, that he didn't have something to say because Puthoff's really been around. His name has been dropped from the early noughties. So, I think that it'd be a shame. Also, I've actually had an opportunity to talk to some interesting people including the man pictured on your screen at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had an
Yes.
opportunity to ask quite a few questions to him,
Yes.
and including. So I asked Jack, like, does he know what it is? And he went off on some tangent about angels and demons himself.
Yes.
So I don't think he or he either didn't let on that he knows, or he doesn't know what UAPs are himself after all this time.
I was surprised. Well, he didn't know anything about the whole Phobos incident, regardless of what actually happened. He didn't know anything about that either, which is interesting because he knew Maria Popovich, I thought, but maybe not. And yeah, so
he did know Maria Popovich.
I thought he was involved with that, but it's one of those things. Same with Stanton and Hal Puthoff. I think if I can recall correctly, as much as this, I mean, Stanton literally going and interviewing abductees. I don't know if he had a high opinion of the whole remote viewing thing. I think he was very skeptical of it as well. That is probably just a small anecdote mentioned in one of his books somewhere, but which I'm recalling that because I maybe remember thinking it was strange where you're taking people seriously who say in their dreams the aliens took them up and then shoved things inside of them, right? But then you're not going to take, this research from Stanford or wherever seriously about psychics. But it's one of those kind of, there was still such a giggle factor with both things. And I think Stanton maybe only really had time to deal with one thing at a time. But yeah, it is interesting, actually, come to think of it, that he never really did. We don't know that. Maybe he did, but he never really made a big deal about it. Like, he never really talked about it. And same thing with Jacques. Yeah, he's and this the same thing happened in Joe Rogan's interview. Did you ever see Joe Rogan's interview with him on Joe Rogan? No, you did. You should watch it. Yeah,
with Jack. Yeah, I saw the interview with Jack. Yeah,
yeah, because James Fox was there with him. But Joe, there's a period towards the end where Joe gets fed up with him, and he just fucking grills him. He tries, and he just has no interest in budging. Like he still stays in this space where. I'm like, well, what do you think is going on? Like, you've been involved with this, like what? I don't know. He just refuses to. It's not even speculate though, but he just speculates in a weird way. Like you're saying, he gets like very metaphysical with it, and that's Passport to Magonia, which is one of his first, like I think it was his first book or his first big book, which suggested that all these stories from the ancient past of demons and angels and other creatures were actually extraterrestrials kind of just disguising themselves and us misinterpreting them, which is really interesting. It set a precedent in ufology, but yeah, I can't, maybe it's a legacy thing where he doesn't want to say the wrong thing now, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know.
I want to tell you something interesting. Today I was thinking about, I'm Jewish, and Jews, we put on something called tefillin. Do you know what that is?
No, actually.
You should look it up. Just type in Jew wearing tefillin. And I just wonder if,
it's just a cat?
No, it's not the cat, no. I wonder if it's an emulation of aliens, like, from back in the day. Like, because it's such a weird, like, we put this, like, box on our head and a box on our arm, right?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Like, and we do it every single day. And it contains, like, the what we call the Shema. It contains the Exodus of Egypt, the story of the Exodus of Egypt.
Yes.
And how it's to remind us that God took us out of Egypt every day, basically. That's what, because it's a law, it's a Jewish law. But if you assume that, like, it was actually aliens, right? If you assume that, like, imagine that an alien being saw slavery and decided that they wanted to interject, right? They saw this injustice and they, imagine that it's similar to Star Trek, where you've got the Prime Directive, which says that you're not allowed to get involved with species that are not, traveling between planets, when not at the technological level yet, but imagine that they kind of broke that, They were like, oh my god, we can't deal with this injustice, and they took these people, and gave them the opportunity, because like the 10 plagues just feels like an alien event to me. Like I mean,
It's
like
very strange. I have an
blood,
intimate interest in this.
water,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like death of the firstborn. Like I
Oh, yeah.
mean, literally, they just went around and just wiped out. Like, look, I'm not saying it is. I just find the whole thing. If it was the case, would it explain so many more things inside of religion, not just the Jewish religion, but other religions as well?
Oh, yeah.
Regarding
Oh,
very odd behaviors.
Well,
like,
but this is the foundation for the ancient astronaut hypothesis, right? But really, it's that ancient peoples misinterpreted things, or not even that, immortalized them to some degree in ritual, because really, for many of them, that's all they could really do. I mean, some of these cultures, like Dogon, didn't have a written language. So how did they immortalize maybe what happened? Through song and dance. And they were artists. They made things. Same with ancient Jews at a Hebrew. I mean, obviously they could read, right? But it's through rituals, and rituals are important. And that is one thing.
You saw one with a mechanical. If you'd seen like an alien with some kind of mechanical device on their forehead, and then they presented as God to you, and you wanted to emulate that to remind yourself of what you'd seen that day.
Yeah.
Then that's what you would do. And the same with these people, the Dogon. These masks are emulating possible things that they may have seen.
Walking on stilts. Yeah. And then somehow they knew about Sirius B. Yeah. Which you can't see without a fairly high-powered telescope. So now there's other explanations that this knowledge trickled to them from people, but this knowledge,
astrologists.
Yeah, but I mean, it's very interesting. Yeah, the Exodus is something I'm very interested in, and have been interested in for many years, from kind of a different perspective. I get. Can you read and write Hebrew?
Yes, and speak.
You can speak it too. What does Ra? R-A?
Before Abbott's question, before Abbott, I'm drinking a single malt whiskey, my friend.
Oh, I'm jealous. I just ran out of fucking liquor. God damn it.
And you know what? I'm drinking Canadian whiskey as well.
Are you actually? Oh, is
yes,
this a gift?
I am.
Okay, there you go. Very
nice. It's not a gift. I went and bought myself a bottle that I had before, and it was so good. I bought another one. Do you want me to tell you what it's called?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious.
Hold on, let me get the bottle. Hold on.
Let me see. Yeah. You're on the rum. Oh, I've been into brandy recently. I do love my single malts, though, I have to say. Yeah. I've been looking for well, you guys are in the UK. I'm jealous. You get all the good single malts, for Christ's sake, at a decent price. I get ripped off here in Canada.
It's called Pike Creek, and it's an excellent whiskey. If you get an opportunity in Canada to buy some Pike Creek, it is a fantastic whiskey.
It actually is, yes. And I have heard that.
Not Pine Creek, Pike Creek. Pike Creek.
Pike Creek.
Yeah, that's that one. First one there, top right.
Oh yeah, this is it. Yeah, sorry, still pulled it up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
there we go.
Pike Creek.
Oh wow.
And I've got a 10-year-old in rum barrels in front of me, which is the one that not the 15. That's an interesting one. That 15. I've not seen that one.
Oh yeah.
But just the 10-year-old. $36. It's not cheap whiskey, but it's still it's nice.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Well, I'm usually drinking. I was on the. I have expensive taste.
$100 bottle of whiskey here as well, but I don't. Macallan 16-year or whatever it is, but I won't be drinking that.
Oh, do you? That would be about
£20 a shot. So.
Oh, this is $300 now. The Glendronach 18. It was $180 Canadian when I started.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my favorite. Yeah. Oh, I can't even look at it. I can't even look at it.
I do like a Dalwhinnie 16 years, quite nice.
Oh, they're good too. Oh, they are so expensive here though. Like, oh my god. Oh, you guys have all the good stuff over there though.
Yeah, I've got a lot of whiskeys at home. Whiskey's very prominent in the UK.
it's a good price, right? It's like we don't. Well, you're so close to
It's
Scotland,
cheaper
right?
here. It's cheaper here than it is there, but it's still expensive even here. Like the prices of whiskey have gone up dramatically. Look what you've done, by the way, for Abbott. This is your fault. We've sidestepped into whiskey land.
Oh man, yes. Oh, rarity.
You know what I need? I need some ice. I need some ice.
Oh, there you go. No, I do have a question when you're back. To do with the Exodus, because I have an interest in the Exodus. I have an interest in the story of the Exodus, as some people here may know, but it's not necessarily to do with aliens. I'd never heard of this ritual though. Actually, I'd never seen this before. Like, what does it signify? What does the box signify exactly? This stuff it is very interesting. The whole ancient astronaut perspective is very interesting. I mean, obviously, Giorgio and co, by making Ancient Aliens and popularizing it, did they do it a disservice? Not really. There's still lots of good information in there. They meme the hell out of it, though. And some people that argue maybe further discredited it, but it was already pretty wooey. Like, Von Daniken did that from the get-go with Chariots of the Gods. Sitchin did that as well, but Sitchin was a little bit more academically oriented, although he wasn't officially accredited. But Sitchin could read and write ancient Hebrew. He could kind of read cuneiform texts at Sumeria. Yeah, I don't know what. I never heard of this. I never heard of this whole thing. Are you back?
This is the beautiful noise of an iced whiskey. Have you tried that Pike Creek?
I think I might have actually. Yeah, I think someone else I know had it. I believe so.
I would describe, for those people that don't know, I would describe Pike Creek as a session whiskey, which means that, it's not too expensive and it tastes delightful. You could be drinking it all day, every day. It's it's not too. It's a smooth whiskey. Let me have a little taste now. Just 1 second.
Give me the flavor profile. Give me what you're getting. Hints of what?
It's in a rum cask, so it's got like a sweet rum flavor. Yeah. It's smooth. It's got a wonderful fresh smell, and it just goes down. You don't even know you're drinking it, really. It just goes down. You know how some can be very smoky or give you like a little like a real hit, like straight.
Peated stuff.
Yeah, peated. But this isn't. Sometimes when you take a whiskey for the first time, it's hard to get through the taste profile. But it's such a pleasant initial experience. I would say it's one of the nicest initial experiences I've had from whiskey wheat. Just as soon as it hits the tongue, it's very pleasant, and it lets you in. It opens the door and lets you into its home, so that you can taste its goods. And that's how I would describe it.
That was this was a bane of my existence. I actually had to stop for a while. If you can get Long Branch there, this is a bourbon, but this is fucking good. A little bit too good. I can't keep this on my desk anymore.
Get that Long Branch. If I see that, I will get it.
It's Matthew McConaughey's.
Is that Canadian?
No, it's American. It's Matthew McConaughey's a bourbon.
All right.
It is all right. Yeah, I have reviewed it thoroughly, and I can say that it is very good. And here, it's not that much. It's only $45. It'd probably be more over there. It's only $45 here, which is like, considering like some of the single malt I like are $200. It's up there. Cheap. Yeah, it's up there with it. We're like, talk about sessionable, man.
It's not cheap. Cheap whiskey's like £15. It's dirt.
But
like, it's a good whiskey at that price.
Flooded again, yeah. Actually, that's very there you go. Well, that's Noah, but it's a flooded again meme with Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, that's the fucking.
All right.
Flooded again. Yeah, flooded again. Yeah. But I have a question for you then, Drunk. So in Hebrew, what does Ra, R-A, mean? Does that
well, first of all, Ra, I mean, I only know it from the Egyptian. Ra,
okay.
As in, like, I don't. So, Ra normally means evil in Hebrew. So, if you say Yeled Ra, it would mean evil child.
Evil. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So, it does mean evil. Okay.
It does mean evil, yeah, Ra.
There is an interpretation from the Exodus when Pharaoh was telling Moses and the Israelites to leave. When he's allowing them to leave, that he lets them leave but he essentially says you can go, but evil is on the horizon when you leave, and that's one of the interpretations. It's interesting, and there was, but he says Ra, and it's RA' when he says it, and
That's that's how you say it.
Ra. Okay, and there's a I think it's a Midraic. Is that how you say it? Rabbis? Is that what they were called? Is that how you pronounce it?
I've never heard of the word Midraic ever, so you have to explain that to me.
Okay, I guess it was a sect of rabbis back like in the Dark Ages, like 1100 AD maybe.
Not the Mahadrim. Not
that could be it.
No, the Drake. Let me look them up.
I could just literally be butchering the name beyond belief. I probably am. But there's an interesting correlate. So out of the whole Exodus narrative, the plagues are kind of an anomaly. It's weird. It's just started out of nowhere. It seems like a natural disaster of sorts was happening, and then there was a serious natural disaster when they left, and the Red Sea was parted. Obviously, Moses did this himself with the staff, but it seems like there was a chaos that had happened. And when he tells him to leave, the Pharaoh tells Moses to leave, he says that evil is on the horizon. I can get the exact quote, but it's Ra, R-A-A, evil. Now, there was an interpretation, supposedly, and the modern interpretation states that, but supposedly there was an older interpretation that may have been lost, which Ra actually translates to evil red star, which is interesting. And this was something I ran into this.
I don't know how that would be a possible translation, because the word for star in Hebrew is kohav. And the word for red is Adom. So to say evil red star, you would have to say Kohav Adom Vera.
That would be the modern term. Okay. There's probably more to it. Maybe just evil star even might be what it was. And there may be more to it as well. So there was an academic paper I was reading interpreting Immanuel Velikovsky. So he was a Russian psychologist who wrote a book called Worlds in Collision, and he had postulated that a great comet appeared during the Exodus, and that is what potentially had caused the cataclysm to occur, or that there had been a cataclysm that had happened that they had interpreted and immortalized in that story. And it's interesting when you look up, I've gone over this before, we're not going to get into this right now because I've talked about this too fucking much, but when you look up Ra, like the actual deity from Egypt, he does have over his head a red star. I've got an image of it.
Yeah, but it's not where you're conflating now two completely different topics, though, because one's Egyptian Ra, which I mentioned earlier.
That's
and
true.
The other is the Hebrew word for the other one is the Hebrew word for Ra.
But where did the Hebrew's language come out of? I guess, like where did the Hebrew
from Phoenician?
Yeah,
Aramaic. So we've got combinations of Aramaic and Phoenician. The Hebrew language itself. I mean, where does all language come from?
Well, that's the thing, though. Yeah, like where that whole area is. At some point,
if you type in alphabet Phoenician to Hebrew, you'll see that it used to be that the Hebrew alphabet came from pictures. It was a pictorial language, like the Egyptian language. And just go to images or something. Yeah, you'll see that they've got them all next to each other. I can't see anything because you've got your star.
Oh, sorry. I've got Ra up in the boat there still.
Still got Ra up at the moment, so
here we go. Oh, there you go. Descendants of the Phoenician alphabet.
Yeah, so you can then compare the letters and where they've come, how they've. Oh, look. So if you look at Old Hebrew, and then you compare it to Phoenician, because Old Hebrew then got changed into Aramaic, which
Hebrew,
is what we understand as the Old Hebrew, and then we've got script now. But if you look at Old Hebrew and compare it to Phoenician, you'll see that they look very similar.
Oh, very similar. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I'd have to get that paper and see if you would make any sense of it, actually, because it's something that I've read over a couple times.
Interestingly, Hebrew script is what you would consider new Hebrew. So if you type in Hebrew script and then compare it to Old Hebrew, you'll start to see the link.
Okay. Shetsan
Vav. Yeah. I'll show you. It's not that one. Go across. That's Old Hebrew. That's what you would consider modern Hebrew.
Yeah.
Keep going across. You actually had it and it's disappeared. Oh, down one, a handwritten Hebrew Pinterest. There, that's what we would describe as script.
Okay.
That one, yeah. And then if you compare that, let's just have a look at Aleph, for example, the first letter. It looks like an I and a C next to each other, right?
Oh, okay, yes.
Now, if you go back to the old Phoenician,
So that's back to where I just was a second ago.
yeah,
Like go back, like here.
it's like a wheelbarrow. And if you look carefully, you need to go back to Can you see the first letter there? Looks like an I and a C that's been crossed over. I don't know if you can see it.
Maybe we can actually click.
It's the first line where A is and Aleph. Oh, you had it. You've just lost it.
I just clicked on
that picture. Yeah, you probably want to expand that picture, but if you just look at that picture and you look at or if you go to the blue one on Oral Hebrew Pinterest, you can still see it there. But it's
right
the one that we're looking at is Old Hebrew. You can see it's like an I and a C that's been crossed over. That's actually backwards, but someone needs to reflect that image.
Path unknown. Interesting. That's an interesting symbol there. That's interesting. That symbol has been depicted all over the planet. Actually, that's the T. Path. The T.
I think if you look at Proto-Semitic, you can actually see that the Aleph came from a bull looking thing.
Proto-Semitic.
That's where. So before Phoenician was what you would call Proto-Semitic.
Oh, okay.
And so if the question is where does all the language come from?
Okay.
It would come from Proto-Semitic. Just type in Proto-Semitic alphabet because you haven't got it at the moment. You can see it on the top. You can see it on the top line there.
Right.
On the top line of that
Semitic
image.
alphabet. Here we are. Right here. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, it tells you how A came about. It's like that's it. That's the perfect page. You got that. That's the perfect image. That's the one you want.
Okay. And there's all the different symbols there. I wonder if we could expand.
It's got all the different ones. It's got the script. It's got the original one. It's got the proto. It's got what it's changed to. It's really clever.
That's
so
obnoxious.
Just head on to that.
I can't. Oh, right there. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So you got that like bull. It's because it was an ox. That's what it was. Aleph was an ox, and on the Proto-Semitic, and then it got like simplified down.
There's Tath there. Actually, I see it turns into what, an O? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so interestingly, like one of the ones I'll tell you that's really interesting, you see the I for Proto-Semitic, there's an I like halfway down.
Yes.
So the variant is still an I, and then the second variant is still an I, and then you have this weird Hebrew letter that's got two like lines going up, right?
Yeah. That
Hebrew letter is ayin, and the word for your eye is ayin.
Interesting.
So that letter and the word for it are exactly the same.
Huh.
And interestingly, the one just below that is also interesting. The one below is a mouth. Can you see the eye? Below the eye is actually a mouth. It's just two lips.
Yes, I do see that. Yeah.
And the letter is peh, and the letter that you see is called peh, and the word peh is your mouth.
Interesting. Okay. Oh wow. So how far?
And here, I'll do one more. One more for you.
Yeah.
You see the face that's going across.
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, and third from the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah. The letter is resh, and it's a picture of a head, and the word for head in Hebrew is rosh.
Interesting. How far back does this go? The Proto-Semitic language, like, is it where there was it? It said that.
5,700. I believe it's 5,700 years, but you could look it up. I don't want to be.
18th BCE, the 18th century BCE. Okay, so that would be that'd be 3,000 at least. 3,800. Yeah.
So 4,000 years, give or take.
Oh yes, yeah.
Give or take 4,000 years. Okay, so like so you're talking about 4,000-year-old language. I mean, it's a very interesting history. There is actually a link to like Chinese, by the way, weirdly.
Oh really? Oh,
yeah. So these letters then part of these letters like like are connected to some of the Chinese letters as well.
Now that's very interesting, right? Like how that would even. Have you ever read Zachariah Sitchin stuff, or do you know who he is? Have you ever heard his
No,
name?
I've got no clue. Tell me, I've got absolutely no clue. Oh, look, it says it there. Look, can you see the Reddit with the kind of yellow-looking sheet?
Oh, right. This, the black one, or down where I don't
It's
know.
third across, third down, third to the right, third down. It's like yellow-looking.
Oh, right here. This. Okay.
Third one down in the search bar.
Yes.
That one. Yeah, that one. You see how it says I? Oh, yeah, yeah. So you see how I said it was I in, and
Yeah.
I. Yeah, you see that. It's got it. So it's got them there, and then Resh. I told you it was Resh, and you've got head. Authority.
Oh, yeah. Authority first.
And then pair and mouth. You see. So I've given you legit information there, backed up by another source.
Tet, basket, snake, surround. That's interesting.
Yes.
That symbol, the cross there, is depicted on one of Ra's, what do they call them? Not mural, but it's on right here, actually. That symbol is depicted on this in some form. And it's a strange symbol, and sometimes it's depicted with these 4 dots within it as well. But it's right up there. So there he is with the snake surrounding this red orb, and he's got this winged.
What does that represent? The snake with the red orb. What do people say it means in archaeology?
The official interpretation from Egyptologists is it's a representation of the sun. So that disc above there too with the 2 serpents, they also say this is a sun disc. Which, I mean, listen, I'm not an archaeologist.
What's the snake part then? Why is the sun in the snake? What's the deal there?
That's a good question. It's a symbology that's all over Egypt. If you look to Mesopotamia now, so the Egyptologist, the ultimate orb of the sun, it is. But if you look to Mesopotamia, the explanation for the winged orb isn't quite as pinned down by Mesopotamian archaeologists. Some of them will say it might be a sun disk. There are cylinder seals that depict the sun with the winged disc separately, which is kind of a problem for that theory. It has other names as well. It's actually known as an An disc a lot of the times in Mesopotamia, which Anu, the primary deity, like the Zeus of the Mesopotamian deities, rides upon. It's also depicted also as a cross at times, which is very interesting. It has serpentine associations with it, where there's like a snake-like tail coming off of it at times, 2 snakes entwining around it, which is known today as a caduceus that medical professionals wear, that Hippocrates had hijacked. But that image is all over Mesopotamia as well. But this is interesting where you've got that symbol there. It's all over the planet. The Hopis flag, they have this cross with the circle, and the interesting thing too is they also, some of these depictions have the cross within a circle with 4 dots on each side, which again is depicted right here on this, whatever they want to call it, a mural with Ra. So it's like a medicine wheel. I don't know what it is, but I know in Mesopotamia this winged disc is depicted as this cross at times within a circle. And it's one of those things I've done somewhat legitimate research on trying to figure this out over the last couple of years. And the ultimate consensus is we have no idea what it means, especially when it comes to do with older Assyrian or Babylonian, Sumerian, especially cylinder seals and works. We have no fucking idea. There's a lot of unknowns there still. I mean, we just recently figured out that Noah's story actually comes out of Mesopotamia because it was on a cuneiform tablet about this big that Irving Finkel, the British Museum, had recovered. So we're still learning about all this. So obviously, this is a lot of room for speculation. But I was curious if you'd ever heard of Sitchin. I think Sitchin was he Israeli? I'm pretty sure he was born in Israel, but obviously not well regarded in academic circles. But he could read and write Old Hebrew, supposedly. He was one of the fathers of the whole ancient astronaut. He was born in Azerbaijan, Baku, Azerbaijan. Where is that located today now? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. I guess Israel wouldn't have been a state when he was born, actually, but he had a long history there as well. But I thought he was a great writer. I mean, yes, some of it may have kind of been science fiction, but I don't know. Some of his interpretations are very interesting. When he gets into scripture and interpreting scripture, he's not a lightweight. He's right up there. It's just when he gets into interpreting cuneiform texts in Mesopotamian history, where I don't know if he had the background, the education sometimes, but.
Why am I not surprised, Jim, that it's an Israeli that's come up with ancient? Well, I mean, like.
Well, but
like it's another one where all roads lead to, you know what I mean.
Well, but the stories are, you go into the Nephilim. I mean, the stories are littered with. I mean, it depends how you interpret them, right? I mean, people would traditionally interpret them just literally as fantasies, but there's people who interpret them.
I really do think there might be some kind of genetic disposition for Jews to be interested in ufology. Like, I mean, Stanton Friedman as well, yeah. another very, Ashkenazi Jew. It's just they're just littered across the subject, and you would think that there are like billions of Jews. Just to be clear, there are 16 to 18 million Jews on the planet. Full stop. We account for like 0.00005%, right? It's like non-existent. Just to be clear, I think there are more people with Down syndrome than there are Jews.
Jesus Christ, that's quite a statistic. Interesting. Okay.
So, like, it's a really small number of Jews, and yet they're just proliferated across like a multitude. I mean, like we just discussed, I do want to bring us back to the book, but Lou Elizondo was going to Hebrew school, and it was very clear in the book that he was somehow connected to being Jewish. It's the most bananas thing I've ever heard, to be honest.
They're foundational in the West, right? The stories, the Old Testament. I mean, it's a foundation of the West, right? I mean, Christianity is a foundation of the West as well, and the foundation of Christianity is, right, Jews, essentially. I mean, but Jesus was Jewish. I mean, the whole deal, right? So, I mean, I think that's probably why. And also,
what if Jesus was actually was taken by was one of the first people to be taken by aliens, basically
abducted,
and they saw him die, and then the aliens like repaired him. He didn't actually die. They just thought he died, and then basically went into like a stasis. They took him away, went into stasis, and then repaired him, and then came back. I mean, this is a heresy I'm talking, but I mean, I'm not Christian, so I don't really care that much. I'm sorry, don't please no one get offended, but at the end of the day, I'm just like throwing it out there. I said it about the Jewish religion as well, to be fair. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't actually necessarily believe any of it. I just like throwing it out there as is it even plausible?
Well, but the story, when you look at the story of Jesus' story of Mary, right, having a virgin birth, right, and a light guiding the wise men, right, to his birthplace in Bethlehem. Right? I mean, like the whole story, when you really, I forget who I watch sometimes, someone just broke it down from that perspective. And like, obviously I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, and I'd known the story very well, going to catechism and whatnot. But when I looked, and as someone grew up like interested in UFOs and whatnot, when I looked at it from that perspective, I was just like, holy shit. Yeah, it really does sound like an abduction tale. Like this family got fucked around with, right? And then
it's a bit of a mess, the Virgin Mary, from the Jewish perspective, right? In the Bible, and in the prophets, it's clear that the next prophet needed to come from a direct descendant from David. I don't know if you know that needed to be a direct descendant from David.
Yeah.
And Christians believe this as well, by the way. I'm not just saying this, but both religions believe that. So they try to come up with a lineage for how a virgin birth could have come from a descendant of David. Mary must have come from David, basically, for him to have been the Messiah. And if you type on the internet, what was the lineage from David to Mary? It's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess.
I mean, my question always, so I had a philosophy professor who was very much into all this, and he kind of revered the Bible. At the Old Testament, New Testament, it was a foundation of Western civilization. We can't really fucking debate that. I was always questioning, I'm like, well, like, how real are the stories, though? and there are obviously academics that are Christian, Jewish, right? That are behind these stories. Well, maybe more Christian, I guess, when we're getting to the New Testament with Jesus, but that they're convinced that this person did live. I don't know. I mean, they seem convicted that this character lived. There were lots. Was his name actually Jeshua? I think was what his name would have actually been. I think.
Yeah, Yoshua is a Hebrew name.
Joshua. Yeah. So that's what there were lots of people walking around with that name back then that possibly could have been prophets speaking out against the Roman Empire and being like, "You're fucking assholes," right? Like, and they probably crucified them all, which is what they did to Spartacus. They did to tons of dissidents. So, yeah. So, was there one guy who walked on water, turned water into wine, or whiskey preferably, and did he actually rise out of a cave? That is very hard to narrow down. I mean, but maybe, I don't know. I've had these questions and I put them to people who are proper academics, I would say, and they feel convicted that there is, but who knows? But then if that's the case, then was he an alien? Or did he have some kind of association?
Can we pop back, because I know we could just keep talking, but can we pop back to some of the disclosure, because I do think it's important that we talk about some of the things that were disclosed.
Yes.
Some of the things that he spoke about, that he saw, that he was involved with, in the book, and in interviews, subsequent interviews as well, which he's reiterated some of it at least. Yeah, this was really interesting. That article. Wait, go back. The
one about this guy?
Yeah.
Oh, Arrow? Yeah.
No, not him. That one. Yeah.
This. Yeah. Well, this is
the new director of Arrow, for those people that don't know.
So, for people that don't know, the old director had commented, what was it, on LinkedIn or something? Some nasty comment about Lou. And then a couple days later, there's a new director now. So that was spicy. So something happened. I don't know if John he had posted the original thing. Funny how the acting director went on LinkedIn last week to comment a little on his book, and this week a new director. Makes you think about the timing. He was kind of negatively commenting on Lou, I think, in some of his sources and his credibility. And now he's gone. So I don't know if he probably got a lot of backlash. I'm assuming from that, and maybe he kind of maybe he stepped down. I don't know what happened. People are saying he got replaced, but yeah, this
is a farcical, isn't it? To have 3 different directors in such a short space of time. This is just an absolute farce.
It's a toxic community. But these guys are thrown into the limelight, even on professional websites like LinkedIn. I mean, there's still toxicity thrown around. I've seen it. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe that is some role to play. Obviously, you're the head of an office researching UFOs. Technically, right? The validity. So I mean, there could be some people could view it as career suicide. Maybe but I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Let's do it.
Did Lou Elizondo have first-hand experience of UAP or see any NHI or even interact with metamaterials?
Well, that's a good, and that's what I think I and many other people, maybe like you, were hoping to hear in this book. An answer to that question, right? And I think, unfortunately, he didn't really expound upon that at all. And he was still, well, there's redacted bits in the book that they actually redacted a location from where he met with Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, and the other gentlemen.
Like, so what? Well, why? Well, who cares? Like, that's okay. They should redact places that are still used, that are top secret places. Like, yes, he knows information about top secret places. That's neither here nor there, right? What happened? Okay, so to let people know what happens in the book next, he talks about the Go Fast, because I thought you were going to talk about it, but I'm just going to help you out here. He talks about the Go Fast. He talks about the gimbal, and he talks about the Tic Tac, right? He talks about those 3 videos that got leaked in 2017. He talks about David Fravor. He tells the stories of the individual ones. He talks about his plan to release that after he leaves. That's kind of towards the end of the book, really. But he talks about these videos and the release, and the fact that these were, and I think this is the most meaty thing in the book. And I think I've heard him say something similar before, but these were the least offensive, easiest to pass through the pre-publications DOPSA of all the stuff that he had on his secret file that he held on the system, right? Yeah. These were the most likely to get through DOPSA. They didn't show or give away any national secrets that he felt could get red flagged, and he managed to get them through, and that's how they all got leaked. Yeah, but then the explanation started to come, and he starts talking about how he didn't agree with the explanations, and that leads us on to the video that recently was released by Mick West, where he goes, because Mick West has done an in-depth study of quite a few of these, especially with the Go Fast and the gimbal. The gimbal was the one that's the most interesting, where it's going against the wind, you know, 100 going against the wind, 120 knots.
That's the most analyzed one. Yeah. The most famous.
They had the most information about that. Yeah, they had the most information. They looked at the actual gimbal camera and the way in which that rotates, and the way in which that will follow the object. They worked out the flight path based on the way it was following the object, which is really quite amazing, to be honest. Or some theoretical flight paths. And actually, if you saw an interview not long ago with the ex-head of Arrow, Dr. Kirkpatrick, he got asked about some of the research that had been done by the community showing that this thing was abnormal. And it was that, what's the name of that researcher? He's really good. I see him on the Hill sometimes. He was the one who was interviewing him.
I thought you meant the other physicist. What was his name? Friends with Eric Weinstein.
No.
Yeah. Okay. No. Right. Yeah, I'm thinking. Oh my God. Is it?
I'll tell you. I'll just look it up.
Yeah.
I'll just look it up. It is. It is this guy. I've got the video here. I'm sure you've. Okay. It's a Mark von Rennenkampf.
Oh. Okay. Right.
Did you see that interview? I'm going to put it in the link here. So
yeah.
Can go and watch it.
Pull it up. Yeah. Just link it up. Yeah.
It's in the chat. You can just press on it if you want.
Okay. All right. Here, I'll pull it up.
It's a 1-hour interview in which
right. Yeah.
Mark asks him about the videos. Just skip along to say about an hour, I would say.
Okay. An hour.
Maybe it's slightly less, but about an hour.
And he asks him about.
Yeah, stop. No, it's a bit earlier. Go back. Go back. I saw it. Go back. No, you had it at about 45 minutes. Yeah, you had it about 45 minutes. Just go back.
We're going to wait for the stream to update. So, 56 minutes or 45?
About 45, I saw it. He shows the flight path.
Here we go. Right here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Right there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This is Merrick. Oh, yes, Finn. Okay, yeah, I know who this is now. Here. Just a second here. We'll play this. I'll turn the volume up so we can hear it.
And you can't put any credibility into that. As much as I love our pilots and they're the best pilots in the world, when you're talking about trying to apply a guesstimate to something that somebody remembered from however many years or decades ago, in a scientific, rigorous and technical evaluation, you're going to come up with all kinds of interesting things.
Let me rephrase, I guess. The point is the data and the science from what we're seeing confirms the range data given by aviators. Let's put it that way.
No,
so we just plug
that's not what it says. That's not what it says. What it says is you have a range of solutions to this flight path. One of those matches what people are wanting to believe. One of them also matches the most likely scenario.
Okay.
And so which one are you going to pick? The one that everybody wants to believe or the one that is more likely?
Well, and I'd be curious to know what the more likely scenario is here, because we've looked at all the flight paths at distances up to, at 50 nautical miles, and we haven't found anything that looks plausible.
So the most plausible thing is that it is a stationary object moving with the wind, and the rotation you're seeing is coming from the sensor rotation.
Again, the AT flare doesn't. Okay, so I'm sorry, you're confusing me. You're saying that the rotation is sensor art. Sorry, is compression.
It's a sensor artifact from it rotating, because a lot of that is glare that you're also getting off of the reflection. That's why it's so apparently hot, because you have to now and do the sun angles off of that.
This was at night, first of all.
Okay, it was at night. That's right. This is the gimbal.
This happened 10 minutes after the Go Fast video. 100, 200, 300 nautical miles off the coast of Florida, and there's no balloon trajectory. We looked at every single possible. There's no plausible within the lines of sight, right? Within the AT FLIR lines of sight, that's the elevation and the azimuth. There's no plausible balloon trajectory within the lines of sight.
But you don't have range. So I don't understand what you mean there's no trajectory in line of sight, because there is one. It was recreated. There is a way to do that where you
love to see that analysis, because I don't think even the likes of Mick West, who spent more time than anybody on this, has found a trajectory that finds this moving in the wind as a balloon 300 miles off the coast of Jacksonville.
Okay, well, I would have.
Well, let's move on. Let's move on. I've got a lot more. Just briefly.
Okay. I mean, I understand where he's coming from. I don't understand where Sean is trying to. They don't want to, but obviously it needs to be rigorous. So no, you're not going to take eyewitness testimony into analyzing the footage to that degree. But I mean, the conclusion.
They didn't take eyewitness. They didn't take eyewitness testimony.
No, they didn't. No, but he was saying we can't take that into the equation, I guess. But the final conclusion, you have to factor in the eyewitness anecdotes, I guess, right? Does that jive with reality? If his conclusion is ultimately this was just a stationary balloon in the wind, okay, well, that's what we've come to the conclusion on in the data, I guess. Does that jive with reality? And then I guess you could try and project and say, well, then what the people were seeing was a hallucination. But then what we'd really want to see is the fucking radar data that confirms that, right? Because the satellite data that would confirm, in fact, yes, that object is in fact a balloon that was just floating stationary and that it slowly flew off. Did it sit out there stationary for 8 hours, like the anecdote we've heard from Graves? If that's the case, then that doesn't make a lot of sense.
But they can work out what the distance was to the object based on the tracking of the gimbal camera. There's like vibrations of the gimbal rotating and moving away and then towards, and so they created a simulation of the actual plane so that you could calculate solutions to the distance that it would need to be, and they've only found one solution, right? That's the brilliance of this. Like they actually calculated everything here. And it's actually what the joke is for all those people that don't like Mick West. It's actually Mick West that helped the simulation come about. Mick West is the person that's helped probably the strongest evidence in terms of external evidence, so no human observation, like actual data, that proves the existence that this thing was a UAP. Like, it's actually brilliant. And what's key in this video, for those people that haven't seen it, you absolutely should go and watch it. Sean Kirkpatrick basically gives up on answering what this thing could be and just says, you don't have the raw data. And because we don't have the raw data, we don't look at it, right? Without raw data, we're not interested. You've just looked at a compressed version, right? It's BS. It's a load of rubbish. And he really got showed up there because, he's the leader. Like this started the whole Arrow investigation off, right? These 3 videos started the Arrow investigation off. So they would have been the first 3 videos that they would have wanted to look at. And they still don't have any explanation for any 3 of the videos. When he asks him about the Go Fast video, he says, well, it's parallax and NASA already dealt with that. And then Marek's like, well, actually, no, because they didn't account for wind. And if you account for the wind that was happening at the time, which we can see on the data that's given, they've got their analysis completely wrong. Like maybe they purposefully did, flopped the information that NASA had received on purpose. I don't know, but like, you know, he kind of debunks beautifully all of Sean Kirkpatrick's like interpretations of these videos, and it leaves him speechless. And I think it's probably one of the most telling videos about, or analysis of the Tic Tac, the Go Fast, and the Gimbal videos that I've ever seen. But absolutely brilliant. Hour 15 minutes or whatever it is of your life. If you haven't seen it, it's a must watch.
I've seen a couple of snippets
really
of it.
shows
Yeah.
Really shows Sean Kirkpatrick up for not even knowing what he's talking about. Like, they did not analyze these videos. He had no idea. He had absolutely no idea. And they make it clear. Like, at the end of the video, you see Marek talking about the fact that Sean really didn't have a clue what he was talking about.
I've seen that clip.
Yeah. And it didn't sounded like he didn't understand how these videos originally came about, and the fact that they must have ignored them based on what he said at the end, which was they didn't have the raw data. The data had gone missing. Talking about data going missing, I'm going to jump us back to the book again, because I tried to keep bringing us back to the book.
Yes.
Which was that Lou said that all his files on the system, which had a court protection on them, had been deleted. Right? That they claimed that. Which he had like close-up, high-res 4K images of UFOs had been deleted from the system, and that they can't that it was illegal because they were part of the evidence for Iraq and Guantanamo Bay in a court case, and they had a protection order on the entire file. So I think they're still pursuing who deleted or how they got deleted. So that they can take them to court. It's an actual legitimate situation that's going on that they spoke about in the book, which was, I thought, an interesting revelation as well.
Yes. Yeah. No, it was. Well, it's just, you know, the interference with him and with that data getting out, and there's legitimate fear, maybe internally, of that getting out and that kind of stuff getting out. And he kept reiterating that too. And in the interviews recently, he's reiterated that again, that there is footage out there that is 4K and that is undeniable. And the other thing too, which I know he's mentioned, and he mentioned as well, which is what I think people really want to see in terms of data, especially with the more recent like Go Fast Gimbal footages, is like the satellite data. There's data they would have that would prove definitively, right, outside of just video, that these objects were sitting out there over the water for that time. And obviously
100%, 100%. We never see satellite images. Have you noticed that? They've never released not one satellite image of a UFO. The one that we get is that is from the 90s. It's like a really old one. It's like do you know what I'm talking about? It's an image of like what appears to be a UFO on a satellite image pointing down at the Earth.
Yes.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
See if I can find a link to it.
Yeah, and I mean, they know, and this is one of Eric Weinstein's contentions, because I mean, he knows things as well, I guess, probably, and certain things internally, but that data, he dropped the name of it precisely, but there's a system they have that absolutely would have that object's data in it. And and that would end the debate, but they don't. And they now that the Tic Tac back in 2004, I don't think it was active then, but there was radar data from the ships that had also been taken. And recently on Facebook, one of the officers, here, I'll pull it up here. It says it's from not a satellite, it's from high altitude aircraft. But one of the radar guys on the ship had talked about how it was just a failure that day of the higher ups, that they allowed that footage to be confiscated. And that was a huge problem still, where there should be radar data from that ship. I think it was a Nimitz, I think, that involved with the Tic Tac incident, that would have corroborated for sighting, because they have been tracking it for the last couple of weeks or a week before. So that's another instance.
What happened to that data? They tried to FOIA that data. They tried to FOIA the entire incident. And what did they say? It's all disappeared. It's all been deleted, funnily.
Yeah. No, and it's
that image was the famous image. You're right, it's not satellite, it's what was it, a high flying plane or something?
I'm trying to blow it up actually. We can kind of see it. I was trying to blow it up a little bit more, but
There must be a better photo.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's called the Ostional Beach in Costa Rica, I think. Something like that.
Here, I'll find it. Costa Rica.
Ostional Beach. UFO photo.
I'll
See if
probably
I can find a
put it-
better photo of it.
Oh, there's a zoomed in photo over there, actually. Oh, actually, there's a high-res photo of it there from the History Channel.
Yeah, put it up if you can. Let's have a look.
Yeah. I'll see if I can get an actual zoomed in.
Yeah, the History Channel did a whole program about it.
Yeah, is that it, Rabbit? There, yeah. For me, the reflections are all wrong. Oh, really? You don't think it's a real image, Ben? So this is back. I think it's been confirmed to have been a real photo. But
No, it's a real photo.
Yeah.
Actually, they've got the raw picture still in one of those like National Archives.
yeah.
So this is a real image. What it is, we don't know. It's not fake. We know it's not fake.
I mean, it's definitely strange. This is one of the, I forget what that was called. That was one of the, actually, this is one that supposedly is a real image. And then this is the other one that was taken in California, right here on a lady's property. That was very, very.
Oh yeah, that's a
intense.
classic. That
Yeah, I
one,
forgot it was
that kind of-
called. Yeah, you guys would know, but that was another one too. That's supposedly a real photo. There's actually quite a few floating around there. I think it's a legit photo, but the UFO is caused by something mundane, like when we see videos zipping around, then we realize it's just a nerdy nearby bug. Could be, who knows? Yeah, maybe it was something. Yeah.
He's saying the high altitude.
The Costa Rica one may have been something mundane. It does look very much metallic. Depending upon the nature of the craft as well, we have no idea.
What kind of bug could that be then?
Yeah.
What bug is it?
That does, yeah.
Please
I
tell
don't
me,
know.
tell me what kind of bug makes an image like that, Finn. Like, I'm all ears. Like, I have a deep respect for your opinion when it comes to like fake images and videos and stuff. But this is a 50-year-old photo, so this is not going to be Photoshop. And anyway, it's confirmed to be a real photo, so we know that. But like, what could it have been? Like, what bug?
Yeah,
It doesn't have any eyes. It doesn't look like a bug. It doesn't have any features of a bug. Doesn't have any legs. Doesn't have any. What?
Yeah.
Like, give me the breakdown there.
A chip on the glass in front of the camera. Oh, really? Okay, interesting. That's interesting.
Chip in
Actually,
the glass in front of the camera. Okay.
yeah, that
That seems more plausible.
Yeah.
That seems more
Yeah.
plausible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could get behind that even. That'd be kind of interesting. Yeah.
I'm
That's kind of
more
interesting.
than a bug. I'm not getting on board with the bug, but the chip in the
glass, I can
lens.
see. Yeah, I can see the chip
Yeah, I
in the
can
lens.
see that. Like something hit the
Yeah.
lens at the
Yeah.
point where it's black and it left a mark. Like, it's possible.
Look at the Metabuck one. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like these are obviously a bit more contentious where some people suggest that they're fakes. This one, Christ, I forget what's the name of it here? Some of these are bullshit though. Oh, there's a bunch of those that are bullshit. This was one of the ones I would bet is probably real. Oh, was it this one?
I like it. I like looking at the old ones because
Yeah.
they're much harder to fake. Like you're talking about someone with a fishing
Yes,
string
they-
holding a fake like UFO in front of the screen so they could take a picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah. McMinnville.
Like you can't. They didn't have Photoshop. They didn't have AI photos. Like they're going to be a lot harder to have achieved its fake image.
Yeah, that one is so natural. Yeah, that's in McMinnville, Oregon. Thank you, fan. Yeah, so that's exactly what it is. It was in McMinnville, Oregon.
And wasn't it an old lady or something? Like it wasn't
Yes.
someone who would like be technologically knowledgeable about how to create such a great fake. Like I give this photo, I generally give the benefit of the doubt. But again, it doesn't mean anything. It could have been a secret program.
Well, no propulsion, like no.
Well, we don't know what it is because we
that's
don't know
true.
what it is because it's
We
just
don't
a
know what
still
it is.
image. So, like, what does that mean?
There's
Like,
there's three of them, I think, consecutively. Yeah, there is an artist rendition of what they saw, but I mean, I would definitely something anomalous. It would definitely. I mean, it's a classic UFO. So she supposedly just saw it flying in their backyard, went and got a camera, took a picture of it. The question for me.
we're going to talk about the orbs that he had in his house as well. That's something.
Well, that's something. Maybe that's. I mean, we should literally just talk about that right now. So it's just about to say, which is the metaphysical side to all this, which is why aren't people now with iPhone 15 Pro Maxes or whatever phone you have able to take high resolution photos like this? I mean, like,
well, there's actually some really good like theories for why we're not taking good pictures, and that's because if they are using gravimetric like physics, then the light as it's passing through to the bubble or around the bubble is going to be heavily refracted and diffracted, meaning that your pictures are always going to be either blurry or poor. Also, the frequency range that they might exist in might not be in the visible light spectrum, right? They might be able to create metamaterials that don't show in the visible light spectrum. Like, so we don't know.
So what were these guys doing here then? They captured them with the shitty old camera. Does that mean they're fake, or is that?
Yeah, yeah, right. But this must have got bloody close. This must have got bloody close to them.
Maybe it's the old cameras. I don't know. Like, we're able to get more accurate photographs. Maybe we should use, what are they called again? I'm not into photography, but you take a shot and it kind of just creates the. Maybe digital photography is not as conducive to picking them up. I don't know. I mean, it's that Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not real. Maybe they. Maybe this is a kind of. Similar to the Scottish. Creature that lives in the lake. What's it called? The Loch Ness monster. Maybe we just done that with the Loch Ness monster. I don't know. Yes. The general rule of UFOs and videos is indeed if it's close and ambiguous, it usually turns out to be fake. Yeah. But the McMinnville, I think, was an exception, right, Finn? There's a couple of exceptions to that rule, which are interesting. And then was that intentional? And that's when it gets more difficult to digest. And then with Lou, the orbs in the house. So that was a big part of. That was another like wow moment, I think, and he'd reiterated that for people that hadn't read the book in the Ross Coulthard interview. But that was
more interesting in the Ross Coulthard interview because his wife backed him up.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and she'd kind of gone into the whole family had seen them. The hitchhiker effect is what he. When I was reading the book, I was like, "Fuck, right." That was. I was trying to look for that word a couple of nights ago.
Yeah, the hitchhiker effect.
The hitchhiker effect is what it's called, where he. And that I was curious as to what precipitated that, because typically that's caused by people going into, strange places that have activity and then following it home. Like the guys who work at Skinwalker Ranch, Travis Taylor, who's a rocket scientist, he's a physicist. Supposedly he's had this happen at his house after he's come home from Skinwalker Ranch.
That's what he reported. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's similar strange things, strange experiences. And that was very interesting. Now, obviously, nothing more than that. I was wishing that he would maybe expand a little bit. Like, have you had weird dreams, Lou? Like, have you, has there been any kind of like contact that you felt you've had? Now, I probably didn't want to. He went far enough, right? But I was hoping he would maybe just elaborate on all that a little bit more. Well, like, what precipitated that? What were you involved with? And this will get into specifics. Maybe he can't even talk about.
He also said, just to be clear, that it wasn't just him; it was everybody on the program that was with him.
Yes.
That they were all getting it. That they were all seeing them, and that he actually couldn't even mention the names of some of them because they were still working or have still got clearance for the Pentagon. So they'd been redacted. Some of the names had been redacted, but
Travis Taylor was one of them. Because he was with Lou, yes. Now, Travis Taylor was one of the guys that is still working. So, but he had said as well, yeah, it's happened with him. Now, in his account, he didn't mention the green orbs, but so then, so what does that mean? What does that imply exactly, right? I mean, the fakes of the era, the UFOs. The wife appearance was signaling so many people.
One of the things that's worrying is there is a cabal of UFOs literally holding all these stories together, right? Travis Taylor, Hal Puthoff, Lou Elizondo, right? There is this like, it just isn't widespread enough, the information, and it's still not legitimate. And this is where we still come to the crux of the problem. Like, as much as I really enjoyed this book, and here's I think the most interesting part of tonight, for me anyway, what I'm about to say now, I think is the most interesting thing I'm going to say, is that I don't think the book advanced disclosure.
No.
I think that his PR for the book has advanced disclosure, but I don't think the book itself has advanced disclosure. And would you agree, Jim?
I would have
Because
to.
you were nodding.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think it's moved ufology forward, definitely. I think it's moved the study of UFOs forward, absolutely. I think but I think you would agree. But I have to agree, his presence, so definitely. In terms of disclosure, yeah, his PR, his presence after the book, I think that's what's really moving this forward. It's encouraging people again, maybe also who are within these programs, to come out. And one of the encouraging things maybe for them is, well, Lou did this and he's not dead. That's a good sign, right? Probably if you're actually involved with this kind of sketchy stuff. So I would have to agree. Yeah, I would have to agree.
The big interviews as well with what's this? So JRE, Joe Rogan. That's going to have reached out to millions of people. Welcome, Nico Pan Wam, King of Nigeria.
Yes,
and thank you for that very kind comment.
Thank you, bro. We both appreciate that. Yeah,
we both appreciate that. Yeah. I'm a guest on the show, and it's always a pleasure to come and talk to Jim. Super knowledgeable about so many areas. You'll get a different experience every time coming here.
It's a great format, because I like to think this is kind of a new age hearth, right? We're sitting around this proverbial campfire, this digital light, all having a conversation, right? Or engaged in conversation. And I very much enjoy this. And so it's what I wanted Twitch and streaming platforms to be too. Yeah. But I think you're right. I think, his presence has moved it forward, but the book hasn't necessarily. The book, I feel, for me, has let me get more intimately involved, knowing the person that could very well be one of the people who end up pushing this to the point where there's a disclosure officially. So it's interesting for me to kind of get a backstory on him, know his history and all that stuff. Thank you for the follow, man. Appreciate it. It's interesting for me to kind of get that backstory and some interesting tidbits too, and kind of get to know him, his character and his journey. But yeah, it's not like a roadmap forward to disclosure or anything, but
yeah, right. And that's one of the things that I think was missing from the book. I was going to mention that the roadmap for disclosure, just there's one chapter at the end and it just doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't really give us a roadmap for disclosure. He just tries to confirm that there's lots of things going on behind the scene and that they're all working hard, and that that there's more to come, and all this kind of, this is what we're used to hearing, and this is where I feel things were very disappointing, in that, I've said the good, I've said the bad, and now the ugly, I think, in that I don't want to hear anymore, it's coming, right? I want to hear, well, we've got this person and he's pointed us to the next people. Well, let's get the information from the next people. I want Hal Puthoff, in interviews. I want him telling us what he told, Lou Elizondo, and convinced him that to the level and degree that he'd been convinced.
Yeah.
That that remote viewing is real, and that the biggest bananas thing is that no one seems to want to tell us what happened at Roswell. For some reason it just can't get through DOPSA. DOPSA just keeps rejecting. I heard Lou say that he wants to talk about it, but he's not allowed to. And we heard the same thing from
Grush.
Yeah, David Grush in his big interview with Ross Coulthard said, "I'm very sorry, but I can't talk about what happened there." And it's just bananas. It's bananas. What do you mean you can't talk about what happened there? What could DOPSA still be blocking at this point? It's well beyond 50 years. It's well beyond freedom of information. The only reason that you're allowed to still keep a secret after that time frame is because it's still a national. It has to have been renewed by the president, I think, in the United States. I might be wrong there as well, but the JFK stuff, some of it from the CIA stuff got renewed for another 50 years. I'm pretty sure that the president has to sign off another 50 years of silence. I feel pretty confident about that.
The question is
why.
I
might be wrong. Someone could check me up, huh?
Well, the question, it's just to speculate. I mean, it's why. Well, with the JFK, if it's something to do with corruption in government, then I could see that. But I mean, I think Roswell's probably the same thing, where there was a cover up, and with Roswell specifically, I heard someone speculate about this. I don't think it was Chris Mellon, but they had, and it may have even been Dave Grush that speculated about this. And I think he did with, was this Jesse Michaels is his name. He has a podcast, YouTube channel. Dave was sitting in the car, and I think he thought it had something to do with the fact that people were killed over Roswell. That's what I was going to bring up about Ed Mitchell's story, that similar to JFK, where elements of the government may have actually been involved in killing him. That could have an apocalyptic reverberation throughout the entire United States, right? Still to this day, people would just lose faith. Maybe things are completely co-opted. With Roswell, there were legitimate death threats supposedly handed out to Dr. Edgar Mitchell's family. So then maybe there were, and this was a rumor, and even Stanton Friedman had kind of reiterated this, there were people killed over Roswell. And if it gets dug up, that could get dug up with it. And then it's like, well, what, the government killed American citizens? It's like, well, that's a big no-no constitutionally there. Like, it just is, right? And to maintain a cover-up over something that maybe shouldn't have been a secret to begin with. And that could kind of cause some destabilization, and they'd be worried about how people would react to that. And that, I think it was Grush, actually, that it kind of mentioned that it might be because people were killed. And if people were killed impossibly unjustly, that could be really problematic. And that might be why it's still covered up. Taken tell us a true story of Roswell. Have I seen that? Is this a new thing that he did? Spielberg. Let's see. Oh no. I don't, man, have I seen this? Maybe I have. I don't know. Did he actually? Yeah, I'll have to refresh that. Yeah. Didn't Lucy something like literally buried the truth, which implies either bodies or craft are buried? Well, I mean, who knows? Well, was it Jackie Gleason that with Nixon supposedly saw bodies in a container somewhere? Yeah. I mean, where were they from? Probably from Roswell. I don't know. There's supposedly, according to Lou, there's been many. That was the other interesting thing about the book, I think we should bring up, which was there were some interesting points, like it did with biological remains. I mean, he doesn't hold back. He had talked about Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. He even got into the point, which me and Gail on TV were talking about a little bit last night, but even like supposedly the brains of one of the EBEs, they were like smooth brained. Like he gets into specific details about the biological remains, which obviously they're kind of rumors. It's how they're presented. There's no like evidence presented at all, obviously, but he does get into some specifics. It's just it's a little bit like unfounded. There's nothing really to back it up aside from, well, I heard this and I heard this. And it's still cool to hear those things. People are interested in that supposedly he heard from firsthand witnesses and that he encountered. Yeah, I was waiting for him to say something like an I encountered, and I'm like, oh fuck. But obviously that would have been a whole different deal, and he probably would have been cleared to even say anything like that. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe in the way in which he was talking, but that wouldn't have cleared Dopser either if he had like tried to present this. So I heard this from somebody, but actually I experienced it, but I'm telling you I heard it from somebody. They may even know if he was involved in a program, and then, but who knows? It's not new, but it really does explore the lore in detail. It's about powerful families in the U.S. Air Force battling for control of the crash saucer and the cover-up. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've seen that, man.
I haven't watched that. I'm going to give that a watch. I haven't watched it, but at the same time, I also they didn't have more information than we have now, and we don't even have much information now, so I don't really know what they could have possibly added to. Yeah. Like, if it's just a glorified version of the original, like the story that we already know, then I don't know if I can be bothered. But Spielberg. I do like a bit of Spielberg. We'll see what happens.
Good movie night with the missus. Sit down, throw something on. I've had tons of great movie recommendations here so far. What?
It's a series. It's a mini series, Sean.
Oh, it is.
Following three families. Yeah, it's got multiple episodes.
I thought it was a fucking movie.
No, it's got eight episodes. Is it?
Oh, you're right. That's probably why I haven't seen it. I never watch TV shows. Okay, well, you know what? No, man, I'll still check that out. From 2002.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to give it a while. We'll see what happens. Yeah. But look, Roswell, New Mexico, I mean, it's an interesting one because I do feel like it's a linchpin for getting answers to the whole disclosure project. But one other thing that I feel that was kind of bypassed and was missed out, and it's a real struggle for me to see that, was this idea that they think that that humans have already made some kind of deal or contract with the aliens, right? They're
Yes.
like Eshed, Chaim Eshed from Israel, and some of the stories we heard coming out of Grush and some people in the US, and yet he didn't mention any of that. Like, he didn't give us any information on anything about any human interaction with aliens themselves.
Well, there's been lots of interesting things we've heard recently, and some of the things I can't even believe. I mean, there's been a lot of things that have been floating around recently that are even a lot for me to handle, like, oh my God, well, like, the government has been intimately working with aliens the whole time. Some of them look like reptilians.
Wasn't there the mating, and that the whole that they look like us, that there's one species that looks like us?
Yes, the tall whites. The tall whites, yeah.
And that they're breeding with us, and that there might be a set of humans that are even unknowingly alien, basically. Like, it was just very some spurious stuff in that book.
Yeah,
I think that, if you add up the remote viewing and the orbs in the house, and it's a real tough pill to swallow, that book, in a serious way. And the poor physics, like, I think that I think it was well written. I enjoyed the writing, the style of writing, the descriptive language. I felt this, I had hair standing on the back of my neck. I think he actually did a good job of writing the book and making it feel interesting. Like, I enjoyed listening to it. But when you actually break it down into the crux of what what the book has, the meat, if you like, on the bones, it just doesn't advance the subject anywhere. And to me, it feels like he was in financial trouble, and this is a way to help him alleviate that financial trouble. And I hate that. I hate saying that, because he comes across as an extremely decent guy. He comes across as an extremely decent human being, and that I do believe him when he's been trying to do his best to disclose to the public, what he knows. But at the same time, I do feel that I don't want to use the word cash grab, because it just sounds awful. But I think there is an element of he needed money. They were living out of a camper van,
Man's got to eat. Man's got to live. He likes expensive cigars, right? I mean, that's the fucking thing. So,
and I'm happy to support him. I think that he's provided a service to the nation. I think he deserves what he gets. But yeah, and I think he does phenomenal PR. I think he does a great job when he's on screen and he's talking to people. But
he's a great communicator. He's a really great communicator. He's very disciplined. He's very particular. Obviously, when it comes to specifics about things outside of his expertise, I mean, I watched the whole Rogan interview, which wasn't that long. It's about 2.5 hours. And he was very, I meant to mention this. He brought up the fact that he wasn't very confident in the physics mentioned in the book, and he was not confident speaking on the subject because he was afraid he was going to bastardize it. And so he reiterated that on Rogan, and that he wanted some of these other names to come forward and give their own explanations and communicate it. I mean, we're still waiting for that. We're waiting for somebody, a proper whistleblower that can get into the nitty gritty, right? I mean, Bob Lazar, who we know, he's got a lot of issues, right? He's the only person that has somewhat technically tried to address the issue. We need somebody who's accredited. I brought up there was an interview I had last night we watched where Michio Kaku had commented on it, and on News Nation, and he had said the same thing, where he said it's a very interesting story and he's a very courageous individual, but they need the hard data, and it's absolutely correct. They do need the hard data.
Did you hear today Tim Burchett talk on News Nation that a female, he didn't mention, but we can pretty much guess who it's going to be, is going to be running another session, and that it's already been booked and it's coming and blah blah blah. Did you see that?
I did see that. Yeah, that should be very interesting. I hope in that session they, as much as Lou's a great guy, I don't know if I want to see Lou there. I'd love to see firsthand witnesses. I'd like to see them. I'd like to just turn on the TV one day and just have a bomb drop and just have firsthand people come with evidence, hard evidence, have people, whether they're material science, physics, theoretical, whatever. Yeah.
I'm guessing it's Luna that's running it, right? Because when he
Yeah.
talks about female, the only female involved with UFO is Luna, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I would assume that's who's going to be doing it. I just hope that it's it's Nancy Mace. Oh, right, it was. Right. So I hope that they bring.
Oh, did they announce that it's Nancy Mace already?
Did she say something about that? I can't remember. Yeah, the one who asked Grush
I
about
didn't know
oh, yes, it was. So it's a girl that asked Grush about the bodies during the last session, the last round there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. AOC was the last hearing, right? Yeah, last hearing. Yeah. Well,
Oh, really? It's going to be Nancy Mace. I didn't know that. When did they announce that? I missed that.
yeah, that was a couple weeks ago. Was it officially announced or was implied that she's going to be the one that's going to be heading?
I
it?
like her.
Yeah.
She's like a proper no nonsense. I like her. I think she's very good.
Yeah, they're both good. Yeah, there's a good
I
group
wonder why
there.
Tim Burchett has been bumped. Something's going on. Like he's definitely been very quiet on the UFO stuff more recently. He's not been doing it very many interviews, and the interviews he's done have been very short.
I mean,
to the point.
he's kicking a hornet's nest, I'm sure, that guy. I mean, he's also day to day. I mean, it's such a shit show there in the States. I mean, probably very busy with his job and whatnot. But I mean, this is obviously a priority, as it should be. So hopefully they take it seriously. Oh, she said it a while back. Here's the tweet right here. Okay.
Let's have a look.
There she is there. Who is most likely chair of the next UFO congressional hearing is also very interested in getting briefed about the Nazca mummies. Congress. Okay, so it was implied. Right here.
That's not a confirmation. That's not a confirmation, Hendrix. Like, with all due respect, that's not a.
To be
That's
meeting
not a
this,
confirmation. That's just Jose Bison saying who's most likely to run it. Do you have anything else that
I
actually
think
says it's
there
gonna be
was though, wasn't there? There was someone who implied it. I think. Yeah. Lazy doesn't. Yeah. Oh, here's the confirmation. Oh.
okay, fine.
Thanks.
That's what I just haven't seen it. I'm not.
Yeah.
That's why I want to.
Yeah, Luna confirms Representative Mace will lead the upcoming hearing as a committee chair. Speaking to Ask Poll UAPs, Representative Luna indicated a follow-up. UAP hearing will be held in September, October, and will be led by a new chair. In this case, likely Representative Nancy Mace. Okay. So he says he does confirm it, though, I guess. Okay. Well, we'll find out, I guess, in a month.
Oh no, she's they're co-chairing. They're co-chairing. I've just looked at the original article.
Oh, are they? Interesting.
Or is she chairing? I don't want to say it. No, hold on. I want to see what she actually said word for word. So it says, yeah, actually, so we're supposed to do it before August. Did you press on the actual? It's from Ask a Poll.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Did you press on it already? I'll link it.
I got it here.
Yeah, so if you go up, it says
unconfirmed. Okay, new chair. It'll be under the oversight committee. We have a different chairman that will be leading it, but it'll be good. Luna tells us. We're curious. Representatives Luna Mace won't run the next hearing from her perch of the Oversight Cybersecurity Information Technology Government Innovation Subcommittee. Okay. We'll have a chairwoman. Okay, we'll have a chairwoman. She said. Okay, so that's what she said. Okay,
so maybe did she actually confirm it there? Because I didn't see a confirmation.
Yeah, I don't. It looks like it's implied. It's implied. Maybe we'll have a chairwoman. We've got a different chairman.
It's not confirmed. Like I still
not
don't see a proper
it's not 100% confirmation. It's not 100% confirmation. It's implied, I guess. But
it's implied.
Yeah. It's implied. I do want to watch something here before I end the stream, and I want to watch your video, Finn, that you did. I love these little videos. You've actually got, for people wondering here, Finn, you do these brilliant works, and you've got the eyewitness. You interview him as well, so I will definitely be listening to that as well. Probably actually after I end the stream, I'm gonna go in bed and listen to that. That's fucking sick.
Where's the link for that? Where's the link?
I'll link it in the chat again. Yeah. Confirm. Oh, it's not even confirmed yet. Yeah, we'll place bets. I will bet on Nancy as well. Here, I'm gonna play it right now actually. So I'm gonna get full experience here. Oh, I get it on 4K. Hell yeah. I get the volume up. All right. Yeah. Best. If everyone has headphones, this is the way to do it.
I'm gonna say goodbye just before you start.
Okay. Yes. Oh, you're okay. You're gonna leave. Okay.
It's 2:49 a.m. here, so I'm.
Okay. Well, man, listen. Thank you for coming by. It's always great conversation. So yeah.
Jim, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Anytime.
Always a pleasure and never a chore. Guys, Hendrix and Finn and everybody else that's in the chat, and Nico Pam Wham, King of Nigeria, what a name. Thanks for coming. It's been a blast. For Abbott, yeah, man. Thanks for coming. It's been a blast, guys.
Yeah, man. We'll talk soon, definitely. So.
Right.
All right. Let's get into this. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh, it's like an ice cream sandwich. Man. Holy fuck. Oh my god.
So,
nice, man. And this is the interview after the
Colin,
fact.
welcome to my YouTube channel. We've been working on your animation now for...
Oh, the beard looks sick, actually, fan. I'm loving the beard now. That's fucking sick. I'm so jealous.
Feels like it's been a couple of weeks.
Wow, so this is the gentleman who had the encounter. Man, fuck. It's so... I love this. I love this so much. Like... Oh, does he? He goes into like what happened. I'm gonna watch the whole thing. I'm absolutely gonna watch the whole thing. It just like that feeling that you get. I've never had an experience like this. I've had like a sliver of one, but it just gives you an idea of like the shock of seeing that. I can't even imagine what that would do to someone psychologically if they went and saw something like that. Like. The fucking just watching the video, like, so yeah, the crazy thing is when they pull up, And this whole craft is invisible aside from the propulsion. And so they see, and then the weird thing is like it materializes itself for them. Man, I'm excited to go through and listen to what he said about this. The moment his wife pulled the car forward, he lost sight of the UFO behind a large hedge. He thought, oh, nice. If it's going to leave, I bet it leaves now. And he was right. His wife reverses the car. The big UFO is now gone. And now they see a huge craft flying away in the distance. That is such a head trip, man. And it's these kinds of instances, obviously, you know, in a scientific context, the data you're looking for is hard data because that's what you need to try and do, right? But, I mean, I love these anecdotes because this is the human element of it, right? So, obviously, objectively, it's not the best objective data, but the subjective experience with this phenomenon is really important because there's a serious element of that going on. And it's like a communal thing for people, I'm sure, that have had experiences to work with and be with other people who have had these experiences themselves. People of sound mind too, right? Because obviously there's tons of people out there who fucking are just out to lunch, right? But it'd just be so jarring, man. Like that would, this is no joke, man. Like that would undoubtedly be in your entire life story, right? Because our lives are really just stories, right? Of like 80 years. Stat event would probably take up, in retrospect, that would just be a fucking red stamp over everything. I imagine it would be. You know? I want that so bad. I want to go outside. I want to see fucking ice cream sandwich UFO. I want to see that so fucking bad. The 3 close-up views happened while he sat inside the car. He suddenly felt like he was right next to the craft, looking at the skin close-up, like a remote view or astral projection. Oh my God. Oh, that's amazing. You got that detail in there too, like right up against it. I'm excited to watch through this, man. Fuck. I'm going to. Oh, remember my UFO experience, and even though I was inside my house, my heart was racing. So much of me wanted to grab my phone, but I also didn't want to miss out on possibly the only sighting I'll ever get. And that's the thing. It's like, at the end of the day, you know, even if you get a blurry photo of it, is anyone really going to believe it? And that's the problem with it. Although I would love to have this, I just got a new phone. I'd love to be able to get a close-up photo, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be a subjective thing, right, for you? Because I mean, you could take a blurry photo of it, and it's like, oh my God, look, I got it. It's like, well, is that really gonna convince people? I mean, even if you got an up close video, I mean, nowadays it's still gonna be picked apart, right? I think it's one of these things. Yeah, this is in 1999 too, so I guess they wouldn't have had anything to be able to take photos like that except from a camera. But just how jarring that would be. Man, oh fucking man. Oh, man, it's awesome as always, man. It's fucking sick. Fucking sick. Like, here, obviously. I'll find it on Twitter too. I'll like it. And my small amount of followers, I'll share it. But like, man, it absolutely is. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think we just really appreciate it. It's fascinating, and it's like you get to feel it with the people, and it's really honing in on this subjective experience with people viewing these things. Fuck. Yeah. God damn it. So awesome, man. Thank you for making it. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for coming around too this evening, man, and hanging out with us when we're talking about loose books. So, yeah. And thank you again to Drunk for coming and having conversation as always, sir. It's good to talk. It's wonderful to talk, to have his perspective from the physics background. The philosophy background isn't really great when it comes to that. So it's wonderful to have the hard scientist since the opinion here. Yeah, man, I love him. I think a lot of people do. You just keep making them, man. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to listening to this interview too. 'Cause I love hearing. This is what I used to do. It's like you, man. We so many of the same things we've digested over the years and information, and I love hearing people's experiences. Just regular people viewing these things, and I think it just speaks to how deeply metaphysical this all is as well. That clearly that craft recognized them. Whatever was in that craft, there was consciousness associated or in the craft that recognized them. Right. So it speaks to that, and it speaks to putting this puzzle together. This is a mystery, right? And we're piecing it all together as people here. So yeah, he's still, man, Imagine he fucking does. And on his deathbed, I'm sure that's one of the last things he'll think about. And that's a heavy fucking thing. And, you know, it just is what it is. But anyway, everybody, thank you for coming around. Thank you for hanging out. People on Twitter, thank you for watching again. I'm assuming you're not bots, so thank you. If you're not followed already, hit me up to follow. I've got to do more content and stuff. I got to keep pushing this shit onto Twitter. So, everybody, until next time, I'll be back on Wednesday night for the show then. So, yeah, stay tuned and take care. See ya.
Streaming through the digital night, Jim Russell, he's guiding the light, unveiling mysteries of the unknown, UFOs and the alien zone. He's a man on a mission, exploring ancient secrets, it's his addiction, debating, discussing with his loyal crew, cosmic conversations, unveiling the truth.